It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that you need to
Where will we go next? This phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, my name is Alex Daikaiju. Across from me,
Eli Watson.
and to my left,
Stephen Myers.
and we are
Cryptid Campfire.
in space.
Yup.
Oh.
Whoa.
Hey.
Spooky.
Yeah, we've been traveling through space on a favorite rocket ship.
For nigh on our entire lives now.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think we were in space longer than we were on Bigfoot Mountain.
I think we've been in space longer than we've been alive.
Whoa. We're like all just star babies floating.
Who am I really?
I'm afraid I can't do that.
But let's not waste any time because I have a feeling we're going to be here
Yeah.
for a while
Ooh,
tonight.
Right in.
Real quick, this is part two of Project Bluebook. Last week we talked about part one, the start of it, also the start of Jay Hyneck's life and career, kind of going parallel with each other.
And then we did, if you are subscribed to our Creepy Camper Patreon level, you'll get the 1.5.
Oh yeah,
Which is all the meaty changeovers between
Super
Bluebook
secret
and everything.
special episode.
all the corporate bureaucratic BS.
Yep, but if you're not interested or if you don't want to give us $5, that's okay.
That's cool.
Because we're moving on to part 2, which is the downfall of Bluebook. So, and we're going to try to make it as easy as possible. So if you did miss the 1.5, you'll still be able to understand what's happening here.
Yeah. Like you said, it's just a lot of the drama, the behind the scenes changeovers and weird stuff. So this is the tail end of the story.
Yes, sir.
And we pick up with who?
We're going to pick up, not with Hyneck.
Oh, not Hurricane Hyneck.
It's the Dark Ages.
We're starting off in March 20th, 1966.
Okay.
At Dexter Township, Michigan. Frank Manor was at home. It was roughly 7:30 p.m. and the dogs are barking incessantly. Even his cattle are going crazy. His German Shepherd was howling at the field when he noticed strange lights above the swamp north of his house.
They making noise?
Yeah. They got like disco lights.
He sees this light and it's going up and down, and it's flashing from blue to red to white. America.
Ooh. It was just the 4th of July parade a little early.
So he called out his family to look at it.
Hey, everyone come look at this weird thing.
I mean, that's something I feel like I would do.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yo, what is this?
Look at this. Check it out. Everyone come on down.
And his 18-year-old son and him decided to have a closer look. His son's name is Ronnie.
Ronnie Manor.
Ronnie Manor. And his wife was worried. His wife, Leona, was worried that they would go radioactive.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Don't go outside.
You're gonna fry.
But that's like a thing with UFO sightings.
Yeah.
People are worried they're gonna get radioactive.
Direct contact.
It just starts shooting radiation at them. And around them, the grass is starting to radiate and die, and it's slowly getting closer towards them.
Peekaboo,
Everyone, get out of the
I
house.
see you.
It's gonna blow.
So, but him and his son decide to go anyways.
Gotta live life on the edge,
They're
dude.
like, we're gonna shoot it down and take a piece of it, maybe sell it at the county fair. It worked so well for that Roswell guy.
They don't know what Roswell is.
Oh, I mean, it's not universally known by everybody in the United States?
No. We'll get to that.
Okay.
We actually will get to that. It's in my notes.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah. So, here's a quote from Frank Manor about how he approached the light. How he and his son approached the light. We started walking out across the field, sneaky-like. I've been a hunter and trapper for years, and I was stalking it, slow, without lights.
Whoa, he's like Snake Plissken. Wait. So, I'm sorry, where are you getting this info from?
This is, oh yes, I should note.
It's in the book.
It's from my book, The Close Encounters Man, How One Man Made the World Believe in UFOs, by Mark O'Connell.
Eli bought the last copy.
Ooh, last copy. Actually, pried dead from the dead man's hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
it's like the biography of Hyneck's life.
Mm-hmm.
And I used it a lot in part 1. Also, if you haven't listened to part 1, you should probably go do that now.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
do
a
your
lot of
homework.
this won't make sense.
Be like, whoa, what the hell's a quintanilla? But it's funny because so the book's a little more in depth because your story starts with them at home.
I would say a lot more in depth. I feel like.
Because I got a little bit of research about Frank Manor and everything, but it's funny because already from my research, I don't know if you got any, Stefan, is it just says it starts with Frank Manor and his son in the swamp.
No, they go to the swamp because they see the
But that's
lights.
all my research online says. So the starting point is just March 20th. A guy and his son are hanging out in the swamp when a UFO shows up.
Well, you didn't let me finish here either because they don't know it's a UFO yet.
Well, but still, it's just the story paints him already in the swamp, and then something in the sky shows up.
No, him and his whole family saw it.
Yeah, that's what's crazy because my research is just like, I was like, what are they doing in the swamp?
Yeah,
like dumping a body or something? Like,
there?
who are these shady people? And then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's just like your story already adds more to what I found out.
Yeah, I
on
feel
my
like
own.
the author definitely probably talked to people as well.
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Because
this
we're
is
limited
I was
online.
like, what are these hillbillies doing in the swamp before then UFO showed up?
Well, here we go. I'm going to
Okay.
continue the
Yeah.
story, the more detailed.
Well, that's my little tangent.
So, according to Frank, it took about 30 minutes to cross the field and to get within 500 yards of these lights. And what he said he saw changed every time he told the story.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first time he said that it looked like a pyramid with a rounded top, and it was like it had like a coal, rugged, corrugated skin,
Yeah.
and it was flashing blue, white, and red.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have any antenna or portholes, right? It was
No.
just a smooth
That was
pyramid.
the first time. The
Okay.
second time, he could not make out the form through the swamp mist, but he says it was the size of a car and it hovered 8 to 10 feet above the ground.
Oh, okay. It's tiny.
Yeah. Third time, he said it was rotating red like a police car.
Mm.
And the fourth time, he said it was a pyramid with a porthole.
Oh, okay.
Got a shape-shifting UFO.
Yeah.
Or a
it's
man
like-
who can't make up his mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like Raphael from there's this anime to where it's mechas and they fight giant monsters, and one of the monsters are called angels
Mhm.
that come down and they gotta fight them. It's just like a blue diamond in the sky,
Huh.
and they try to shoot at it and it changes shape and avoids their gunfire. So I'm just picturing that, like just imagine like a diamond, but then like you blink and it changes around and it's different versions.
So, but he has one consistency throughout all those versions is that it's moving up and down and it's changing colors, or the lights are flashing.
Yeah.
Right.
And at home, like remember when I said he called out his entire family to look at it?
Mm-hmm.
He has 2 sons-in-laws, but
It's a big family.
Yeah. Living in a
his
tiny
daughters
shack.
wouldn't let them like go out with him and his son.
She
They're
was
like,
under the radiation belief as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They listen to the mom.
How far away was the swamp from their house?
not that far. I
It's
don't
like the
think.
backyard.
I think it was
it's
like
gotta be, right?
it's like I think I said, or I think I read it's like 1,500 yards or something. It's
Okay.
pretty close.
Yeah,
like
so they live
within eyesight.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
Imagine
but
living that close to just a giant swamp.
I'm sure plenty of people do.
Yeah. You think that happened here in America?
What?
Absolutely.
It's just like some ancient Pangea
Ever
world
seen
out.
Werewolf of Fever Swamp? dude?
Yeah, that happened in like, not America,
All right.
like Europe.
It's in Michigan. So one of his sons-in-law,
Mhm.
Bob Wagner, he calls the sheriff, and the deputy arrived.
Mhm.
And the deputy said he saw a bright light, but then the light dimmed. And they searched the area, but they found nothing. And this deputy was not just any deputy. He was Deputy David Fitzpatrick.
The
Oh.
man himself.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that. Why is he important?
David Fitzpatrick. Stefan, do you know where that name's
No,
important?
I didn't get any of this.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Because
Alright,
I only
okay,
got mostly
so,
Frank Manor and his account.
well, Deputy Fitzpatrick photographed a UFO earlier that week.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it was published in the newspapers. And so when the deputy showed up to the Frank Manor house, it wasn't just him. It was
Yeah.
like 15 other people and their families.
Yeah.
They all came to see this UFO
Mhm.
above the swamp. So it was
It
that I thought you guys would have had.
That's
I know
good.
Steffen was saying he had something, but I guess.
Not
Anyways,
on this.
All right,
that's
well-
crazy. That's like way more in depth than just.
That's a lot of people to see that.
Yeah, because a lot of
Yeah.
my story for the swamp is Frank Manor and his son hanging out in the swamp, saw a UFO, called the deputies. There's a small search party, and people saw different things, and then that was kind of it.
Wait,
Oh.
do they say what they saw in the book?
What?
All the other people that came.
They saw the light.
But
But
Going
it
up
wasn't
in
like
the-
Is it-
they
do they
didn't see
describe
shapes
it?
or anything.
Well, I mean, they were too far away. It was just lights.
oh, they
because
didn't
they're
go
still
to
at
where
the
they
house
went.
on the edge of
Okay.
the swamp.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
They're gonna get radioactive.
Whoa, it's going nuclear, dude.
But yeah, people were freaking out
Yeah.
because,
Say a little.
well, like over 100 people that week alone had seen UFOs in that
Mhm.
area. So like everyone was just freaking out.
It's a hot spot.
Yeah, Michigan
but-
swamp. Who knew?
And Hyneck didn't even like no one reported it really.
Yeah.
He read about it in the newspapers. Hyneck did,
Whoa.
Really?
which is J. Allen Hyneck,
J. Allen Hyneck. The J's for justice.
The man himself.
which is for Joseph.
Joseph
Hurricane
Mary
Hyneck.
Jesus Christ Hyneck.
Anyway, so Hyneck, he reads about it in the newspapers and he calls up Major Quintanilla,
Yeah.
who is
He's the current
the
head
current-
of
yeah.
he's the
Project
current-
Bluebook.
Right. So if you just went from part 1 to part 2, the last you heard was that Ruppelt was in charge of Bluebook.
Yeah.
It's been several years, and Bluebook has shifted hands several times, and now we're with this Major Quintanilla, who is now running Bluebook, and he hates UFOs.
Mhm.
So that's
a-
where we're at.
With a passion.
So Hyneck calls up Quintanilla, and he says, "How come there's no investigation going on?" And Quintanilla says, "No one reported it to Bluebook." And Hyneck says, "You're not being very scientific." And Quintanilla said, "I don't give a damn."
And then
Sounds
Hyneck-
about right.
And then Hyneck was like, "I'll see you in hell."
And
It's
hung
time-
up the phone.
Yeah.
That's true.
And like got his Gatling gun out, and he's like, "It's time to go hunting."
Well, he hung up the phone,
Yeah.
and then a little bit later, he got a call from Quintanilla
Yeah.
and said, "I want you to take the next flight over to Michigan to investigate this." And he said, "I thought you didn't give a damn. I thought it hadn't been reported." And Quintanilla said, "Well, since then, it's been reported."
Whoa.
And let's see.
This man.
That's crazy.
And then Hyneck asked, "Well, who's it been reported by?" And Quintanilla said, "By the Pentagon, doggone it."
oh.
And that is a direct quote. He said, "Doggone it."
Doggone it.
Who
So-
is this guy?
He's Major Quintanilla.
I know that. Who
Yeah.
says doggone it?
Doggone it.
I guess should we talk about how Quintanilla got into
Yeah,
this
let's
position?
talk about that a little
because
bit.
you figure Project Bluebook was started more or less to be like, all right, what are these UFOs? We're gonna get to the bottom of this. We got to figure it out.
Hmm.
So they tried to put the best people on the team that they could that gave a damn
Yeah.
after the failures of Sign and Fluke.
Grudge.
Grudge.
Fluke?
All right, everyone's turn to Operation Fluke. It's gonna go really long. We intend it to be a 5-year project. And then as the years have gone by, as we covered in 1.5,
Mhm.
you know, people they're like, you know what? It's taking too much time, too much resources. We don't know. You know, the guys are retiring that give a damn. Throw out the new people in there.
Mm.
We don't care, and also we don't want to hear about it. So just shut it down and you get a chance.
Exactly.
So by the time Quintanilla shows up, it's the laughing stock of UFOlogy. Is somebody even claims the loss of all credibility when it comes
Yeah.
to Project Bluebook. Like
It's
they
sad.
become a joke.
Yeah.
Nobody reports to them anymore when they have verified proof there's a UFO hanging in the swamp.
Yeah.
They're the last to hear about it by the newspaper
and they're not
behind the Ziggy
And
comic.
it makes sense why Hyneck didn't hear about it because they weren't getting like any good cases at all. They were
Yeah.
getting the lowest
Well,
of the low.
If you think they're a joke now, just wait.
Yeah, they're about to put up full-on clown makeup.
So, the U.S. Air Force decides to send in Hyneck alone.
Yeah.
So he's the only investigator. And the Dexter crowd is heating up. People are like swarming the manor house
Mhm.
because they like, "Tell me about them UFOs."
Yeah.
And Hyneck actually had to like fight through mobs of people
Punch his
just to
way
get
through.
to like
It's like
key
left and
witnesses.
right.
It's the end of Mother, dude.
Yeah,
Kind
it's just
of.
people coming at him, and he's got his brass knucks on. He gets a little bit
Hurricane
of
Hyneck is
hype
here.
coming through. Who ordered the pain? There's a half sale on it, and I'm all out.
Well, Hyneck said that the situation was so charged with emotion that it was impossible for him to do any real serious investigation.
He was getting swarmed by the ladies too much.
And in fact, the local law wasn't even helping him out because they too were like so entrenched in this UFO. Like,
yeah.
because I mean, like I said, the deputy had photographed a UFO earlier that week.
Yeah.
And like a bunch of them had also seen UFOs.
That sucks. You're like trying to help these people, but they're hindering you.
They're just like a mad mob of crazy people.
I'm trying to help you, please.
They're just
But, like-
mobbing him. He like comes out with his shirt torn and his glasses broken. He's just like been through a tornado.
But to also add to that, like there's like a lot of pressure from Quintanilla to like silence this, like to
Yeah.
disprove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also his friends who we talked about in 1.5, Jacques Vallée and Bill Powers.
Yeah.
I think it's valet.
Valet, whatever.
Valley.
Valet.
Vala.
So they're like expecting him to kind of fight back against the Air Force. They're like, you gotta make a stand. Like you need to do your research properly.
Yeah.
But like the major force is like you better figure this out right now.
Yeah.
Like,
Too bad he's not the guy to do it.
but also on top of that, Hyneck had recently fallen and broken his jaw, and his
Yeah.
mouth was like sewed
Oh.
shut, like wired shut.
I've never heard that happen to anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess he took a pretty bad fall. So
Yeah, it was
lord.
when he was fighting off the Men in Black, off the tower before the bomb went off,
Oh
set by
my
Mothman, back in West Virginia.
Okay, so he goes to this town with his mouth wired shut.
yeah, and
Can he talk?
Yeah, a little bit.
He's got
Like
a speaking
he
spell.
can talk like well enough, but
Okay.
like
It's
it's
probably
like
kinda like
difficult.
But
that.
yeah, especially if you're being
Clench your teeth
mobbed,
together.
and you
Yeah.
can't open your mouth all the way.
And so he basically there's like all these sightings going on, and you know, obviously he wants to investigate them all, but he's the only man there,
Yeah.
and he's only got like a couple days because the Air Force is like, you got to give a statement about this on Friday, and it
Mhm.
was like Tuesday.
Yeah.
So he's got to investigate like hundreds of witnesses in just a couple days. So what he does is he strips it down to just the Manor sighting and the Hillsdale College sighting,
Okay.
which happened, I think, was it the same night as the Manor sighting?
The next day.
It was the
Yeah, it
next
was the
day.
21st.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah. So let's talk about that.
So March 21st was a Monday, 1966. And then over at campus, which was the
Hillsdale
College.
Yeah, Hillsdale College.
It's in Michigan as well. That's pretty close.
It's in the same town.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why it's like significant.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like I think a couple miles over.
Yeah, it's in the same town.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Several people on campus. I think
87.
87
Yeah,
or
87.
so.
87 people saw it.
Report seeing bright lights floating over Slayton Arboretum around 10:30 p.m. It's like flying around.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you have something else?
Yeah, I have it. It's just basically the same thing Manor saw. It was just a light bouncing up and down in the swamp.
Okay.
It's like going up and down and left to right. Just
yeah.
like.
But I know Stefan has. You guys continue because I don't
Yeah.
want to interrupt.
Yeah, I just read that the lights were flashing from white to yellow to red, and that it was just moving and it was really throwing people off.
Yeah,
And the
'cause-
people in the dorms couldn't go outside to check it out because they have a curfew.
Yeah, they were locked in.
Yeah.
Dang.
So they had
no
to
panty
call-
raids.
They had to call.
Their hall superior to
Yeah,
ask for
exactly.
the hall pass. Because I had Gidget Khan. She described the UFO encounter. Ran to my window and there it was, radiating intense silver white light and heading directly for the dorm.
Mm-hmm.
A brief flash of lightning illuminated it for just a second, and in that second, I saw what appeared to be a squashed football or basketball. So basically a disc.
Yeah.
Apparently there was lightning too happening. Just like,
Really, I didn't get any of that.
yeah, it's just like the clouds shooting lightning everywhere, the UFO shooting lightning back.
Weird.
Jay Hyneck's in the background, like, you know, Van Helsing, just like, it's the aliens of the devil. Getting his harpoon ready.
Did you read about the cops
Yes,
that saw it?
that same night, actually.
Mhm. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, because it's the same lights that the college is seeing.
Yeah, there's a couple police officers. They're parked on West Carlton Road, which is, I think, is around the vicinity.
Mm.
It's Harold Hess and Jeremy Wise. They saw almost blinding light hovering over the college, and I believe, Hess's report. Shining disc-like object that had excited all the college people in McIntyre heading over the Arb, which is, I guess, the Arbitarium.
Mm-hmm.
This website, I think, is in Michigan, so they keep calling it the Arb.
The Arb.
Like, I don't know what that means. What the hell is pop? I want a soda. Hess said, it wasn't a chopper. There was no humming. I took my weapon out. Jeremy told me to put it back. Whatever it is, I don't think it'll be bothered one bit by what you got at your side, Jerry said. Mm. So Jerry's waxing poetic.
Yeah, dude.
In the time of stress.
That's pretty
like,
deep.
Yeah.
All these movies, they see that and they just start shooting.
They're just like, they pee their pants, start shooting. This guy's like, put it down, little one. The size of the gun does not matter in the grand infinite universe of it all. Damn, Jerry, you really are wise.
Huh.
Jerry the wise, man. And then Hess said he saw that the light split into two and went in opposite directions.
Huh.
This action even damaged the equipment of the patrol call. Because when I tried to turn the radio on, I got nothing but
like
static.
So I thought that was interesting. It was like almost like an EMP, right?
Yeah, you imagine?
Pretty crazy.
Are these the same lights though? Is
Yeah, that they're saying over the college that happened March 21st.
Huh.
Then it says, about 87 people in Hillsdale area reported a UFO in the sky that night.
Weird.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let me see.
Because I don't know if Hyneck investigated that, because I got nothing on that.
No, it says
Yeah,
he came.
he
It says he came into town.
He came into town, yeah, but he could only focus on two things. Like I said, he only had 3 days before he had announced, and he only narrowed it down to just the Hillsdale College sighting and the Manor sighting. So I don't know. That's probably true, but I don't know if Hyneck investigated that particular sighting.
Yeah, because I don't actually know his findings.
Because Hyneck didn't like the law enforcement, because everyone was just like
talking ish on him.
Yeah, just like these aliens are real, and he's like, but can you tell me what you saw? He's like, yeah, flying saucer, it's swamp gas.
He's like,
well, actually, he didn't say swamp gas.
Yeah.
But
Whoa, cat out of the bag. Because I have. Okay, so
it's the swamp gas.
I got the swamp gas right here for you. I have J. Allen Hyneck arrived March 23rd.
Okay.
So that would have been a Wednesday.
Oh,
so
yeah.
he shows up on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So 2 nights after it happened, he interviews several of the college girls.
Well, can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Because that whole investigation. So this is what I got on the Hillsdale College.
Okay.
Some girls are in their dorm. They see this light. So they turn off the lights.
Okay.
And they're able to see it a lot more. And so they're bringing everybody in. They're like, look at this. What is this?
Yeah.
And they see it over the swamp, roughly 1,500 feet away. And see, they went to look for Kelly Hearn, who was the house mother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But she was out. She was consulting or
she's having a few drinks at the bar.
What is that?
She missed out on the UFO, dude.
It's just like, I mean, there's a UFO outside, and she's just like passed out in a martini glass. Like.
She was counseling another student.
A likely story.
Whoa.
So they called. Well, I mean, it's all female, so I don't know.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a female college, right? Is
Yeah.
it not?
Yeah.
Whoa, dang.
That's how dorms work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We never went to college here at Cryptid Campfire.
I did.
I didn't read about any of the boys seeing anything.
Yeah.
Well, because they weren't there.
They were busy working out in the gym.
Well, so since they couldn't get their house mother, they had to get William or Bud Van Horn.
Oh.
And he witnessed the craft. And I bring all this up because these are very important characters, William Van Horn and Kelly Hearn, in regards to Hyneck's picture, and we'll get to that
his
in a
name's
minute.
Bud Van Horn?
Bud Van Horn.
That's weird. On the Hillsdale website, they have a different name for that guy.
What's his name?
Buck.
Whoa.
Van Horn. Director Buck Van Horn.
Hold on. It might be Buck. I thought it was Bud.
My name is Buck, and I'm here to Van Horn.
But I mean, if that's what it says in your book,
I got Bud. I don't know, but it could be.
It's just a typo.
It could have been just like
nobody
Buck,
knows
Bud.
his true identity.
Maybe he just didn't enunciate towards the end, so he's just like, my name's Bud.
That's okay.
Whatever, sir, please take your chewing tobacco somewhere else, Bud. He's just spitting it everywhere.
So, So when Hyneck got to Hillsdale College to investigate, Kelly Hearn limited Hyneck's interviews to only 2 of the 87 witnesses.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's great. Mine was like several.
No, he could only interview 2.
Dang.
And let's see. Yeah. Oh, I guess people did see 2 lights.
Yeah.
About 20 feet apart, I guess.
Okay.
Or, so Bud Van Horn was one of the people who saw it, and he was also the county civil defense agent, local undertaker, licensed pilot, and an Air Force veteran.
Whoa.
So
All around good guy.
Yeah.
He even beat up Bruce
And-
Lee one time.
Whoa.
He had seen the lights as well.
Yeah.
From room 204 to be
Oh.
exact. But Hyneck
At the Overlook Hotel.
no. Hyneck liked him a lot more than local law enforcement because he seemed like he had a better.
Kind of a vigilante vibe to him.
And here's why.
Oh.
Because Van Horn said his first impression of the lights were that they were marsh lights, aka fox lights, or will-o'-the-wisps, jack-o'-lanterns, orbs. And they can appear when methane and other gases formed by decaying organic matter in swampy areas rise in the air and oxidize, causing a faint glow and occasionally giving off a popping sound.
Whoa.
Kind of like, whoa, you want to get a drink, dude?
What are they drinking?
You're a pretty cool guy.
What are they drinking in Michigan? Everyone's waxing so poetic in times of just like Jerry the Wise is like, shush, little Padawan, put the gun away. Force is not might, you know. And you got Bud Johnson O'Houlihan over here, who's just like, you know, I tell you, I saw their fox lights, and he just drops the most maddest biological form ever, and it's like, Bud, how are you a pilot and a stuntman and an alien hunter, and just an overall cool guy that drinks whiskey neat? Like, how you do it?
I can definitely see why Hyneck felt very
Yeah.
comforted.
Well,
you
that wasn't
bro.
like a direct quote, but
I thought that's like what he
No,
I
was
know,
at.
but still,
Yeah,
if he
yeah.
was able to describe it, and instead of being like the lights were so shiny and they were
Yeah.
like jagged.
Well, I'm going to bring up a little bit of the folklore behind the will-o'-the-wisps, as they're called.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Also, he was dropping all kinds of mythology. Like, dang.
Well, no. But it's important to know this because in folktales, well, when people try to follow the will-o'-the-wisps, they disappear as you get closer to them.
Yeah.
And
then
that's just like how it happens and like scientifically. You know, when you approach them, it just disappears.
Yeah, it's just gas dissipating. But also, they always talk about in the legend, I think if you follow will-o'-wisp, you can sometimes find your death.
Yeah.
Because if you're following these lights into the swamp and you get stuck, you're like, oh, he died to the will-o'-wisps. Like, they get him again. It's like,
Well, yeah, the folktales talk about how they have intelligence and that they're mischievous. So
Yeah.
they'll lead people into the forest to their death. And sometimes they're linked to fairies, which we've talked about before.
yeah, finicky fairies.
Yeah, finicky fairies. So, but Van Horn, it's important to note that he said that's what he first thought they were.
Yeah.
But as they rose higher into the air, he thought it was something else, a UFO. But it is important to note that no one left the dorm house to go check it out.
Right.
Everyone
Curfew,
stayed
baby.
there.
Yeah. They're all locked in their rooms.
Well, Kelly Hearn wouldn't let them.
yeah.
Wouldn't let them go investigate, even though there was like a bunch of people there.
The radiation.
Yeah.
But
You'll melt your toes off.
people said they could only see it if the lights were off.
Okay.
And also, here's going back a little bit to the Manor sighting. Fitzpatrick, when he was there investigating the light, when he investigated the area, he said he was following a solid object, but then it disappeared as he got closer to it, which I think is interesting because it kind of goes with the will-o'-the-wisps idea.
Whoa, it's the fairies the whole time.
Right?
The dark fairies, the Dawka, they're back.
Well, let's see. I want to talk about a little bit of Hyneck's very chaotic days investigating.
Yeah, it was mad, man.
Because
He was pounding
Poor
kegs
guy.
left and right,
well, what
making
really
out on the chicks.
No,
like,
no.
Party animal, Hurricane
He's a
Hyneck.
married man, dude.
Going back to his old stomping grounds.
So he was actually in a police chase one of the days he was there.
Yeah.
As a bunch of police said they saw a UFO, and they were like chasing it around. And Hyneck said he even got caught up in like the whole like hype and said he thought he saw it as well.
Yeah.
But when they like pulled over and stopped and they had a clear view, it wasn't moving. And it was a star.
Whoa.
Hyneck was like there in person, was like, that's just a star, and they're like, no man, that's a UFO.
Yeah.
And he said it was the star Arcturus, and you could tell because it was right next to the Big Dipper.
Okay.
And he was like, no, it's just a star, and they're like, no, it's a UFO.
Can you imagine him being in like the backseat of one of these cop cars, like, what? Oh my God, what's
Wow.
happening? They're
And
just chasing
He even
nothing.
grabs a gun out, and he's just like trying to shoot at it.
Well, and he looked at the photo as well that Fitzpatrick took, and he said it was just
A star?
the moon and Venus in the sky.
Mhm.
He was like, what are you looking at? Like, These
Yeah.
are just stars.
They're like, no, the corner right here, and they circled it in red, and they like up the luminosity of it, and kind of photoshopped the face into it too. It was like for real photo of UFO.
It's a face, you
Yeah.
said?
It's a ghost UFO.
He managed to interview 28 people though in those 3 days he was there. He even went to Ann Arbor to interview 11 astronomy students who said they saw it.
Yeah.
And
Because people could say I think across the lake or something.
yeah,
Could you imagine just trying to interview 28 people in 3 days?
with your mouth like wired shut.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Just imagine, like, that's amazing he got that many people.
Yeah, Hyneck wasn't messing around.
He was an animal.
He investigated the swamp where the Manners said they saw stuff, and not to mention that everywhere he goes, he's getting like
Hounded.
impromptu interviews from reporters, and they're like, was it UFOs? Was it aliens? And he's like, I don't know. I haven't like investigated yet.
Yeah.
No, it's like this. I don't know. I haven't investigated yet. Because his mouth is wide.
Yeah. We just got a full-on robot voice. I do not know.
Yeah.
Do not come closer, human. He's a cyborg the whole time.
So like, Hynex is there. Everyone's asking him for answers, and he's like, none of these facts are really like fitting together. Like none of this makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. I think he said it reports like people who witness a fire. Many different facts from many different people.
Yeah.
So far, all I've been able to come up with is that there are reports of a variety of lights. That's the only thing he could be like, well, again, people say they saw lights. That's it. I don't know anything else. I keep getting different answers. Like,
And the U.S. Air Force was like, all right, now give us an
What's
answer
the
by March
answer?
25th. And
Yeah.
you said he arrived in town March
21st.
23rd.
Oh,
Yeah.
23rd, that's right.
so he had like
yeah.
2.5 days.
He was
of
probably
that.
still doing interviews on the
Yeah.
25th. Like,
They're hounding him. That's crazy. They're like, "What's the answer, Hyneck?
It was
Speak
Venus.
up."
tell us the answer, Hyneck. Give us the money, Hyneck.
Yeah.
We know you're good for it, Hyneck.
And then they took his rug.
And Hyneck's just like, that rug really tied the room together. You're
Well-
in for a world of pain.
Whoa, Hyneck, that's your name, dude.
Yeah.
So, Hyneck described it as a circus. And
Yeah.
he said
I
it
can't
was,
imagine.
it was
They even had an elephant there.
it was his low point of
Some
his
peanuts
association
and
with
popcorn.
UFOs.
Yeah, that's just like, that sounds so awful. You find out like a day after it happened, like, oh hey, there's a UFO, and he's like, hey, can we check on this? Nah, like, no. Click. He's like, damn. Hey, you gotta go fly out on the red eye, go to Michigan and interview people. He's like, okay, fine. And also, we didn't answer by Friday, and you're already like, it's like halfway through Wednesday.
He's
You're
like,
just like,
why did I call?
yeah, why do I even bother?
Wait,
anymore?
because it's at the point now where Bluebook is only like 10 people, right?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
small.
Like a bunch of interns in the
Yeah,
basement.
they couldn't spare anybody.
Nah.
Nah.
And so, like, it's Friday, and everyone, the audience, like, the people who saw it,
The
the news,
reporters.
everybody's like, they want a story about little green people,
Yeah.
except for the United States Air Force. Obviously, they're anti-UFO, so... And everyone's expecting this, and what does Hyneck say? It was swamp gas.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a little ditty we like to call Swamp Gas number 5. It's like, ah!
And it just, like...
Could you imagine, like, the silence? Because I think he actually had to get in front of a crowd at a press conference. Just like, well, he had the awkward, like, coughing, everyone's waiting. And he's just like, ladies and gentlemen, after exclusive research, it was swamp gas. And just that silence hits. Because it takes everyone a minute to realize what he just said.
Yeah.
And then it must have exploded with people, like, yelling, like,
Well,
what?
it gets pretty nuts because... people like stopped listening,
Yeah.
What had happened was the government's #1 UFO expert had said that more than 100 people in Michigan, including policemen, college students, and civil defense authorities, had been duped by swamp gas.
Yeah.
He was basically calling out everybody.
Everyone a moron.
Yeah.
He stands back from the podium. He's just like, a little too wild for you guys. Don't worry, your kids will love it.
Well, people were like shoving, and we talked about this in 1.5, but basically, this man had claimed to have photos of UFOs. They were proved to be hoaxes.
Right.
But they shoved one of those pictures in Hyneck's hand.
Yeah.
And took a picture of him with
Oh,
it.
no.
So that, and the story was
so there's a
that,
picture of him, like, standing there with a picture, like, huh?
Yeah, and so they're like, yeah, see, he's calling everyone, like, on par with this guy who is a known hoaxer.
Damn, that's wild. That's
And-
great. That's some dirty tactics, man.
They really did Hyneck dirty. And let me read you some of these quotes here, because everyone turned against him.
Yeah.
So Frank Manor said, "I'm just a simple fellow, but I seen what I seen, and nobody's gonna tell me different. That wasn't no foxfire or hullabalootion. It was an object." Bud Horn said, "It was my considerate opinion that Dr. Hyneck had his mind made up as to what his findings would be before he ever reached the city of Hillsdale.
Oh, that must have stabbed in the back. Because
I
they've
al-
been buddies up until that point.
I
Yeah.
also observed that his main line of questioning was relative only to that which would fit the marsh gas theory."
Ooh.
It, like,
Dang.
everyone's
Yeah.
just like
He straight
stabbing.
up publicly called everyone in that town stupid.
Dang.
But it's like, what choice did he have?
exactly.
Yeah.
Bluebook's
Like,
falling apart, dude.
He's literally there at the podium with the sniper aimed at his head if he says that it was little green people.
Right?
They got Lee Harvey Oswald out just for this special occasion.
Right? And, let's see.
It pissed everyone off.
Absolutely.
Well, he wrote to his friends, Valet and Bill Powers, and was
Mm.
like, "Guys, you have to understand my situation here. Like, I'm not, like, fighting. Like, I'm just trying to make it here. Like, you have to
Yeah.
understand." And luckily, he had friends who, like, understood his situation, so he
Yeah.
wasn't, like, completely alone. But it's still, like, that was, like, a big hit to his reputation, for
Yeah.
sure.
Absolutely.
Gerald Ford got involved.
Yeah, Gerald Ford and Congressman Weston Vivian.
The tag team of pure evil came out.
Kind of. They called for a congressional hearing into the Air Force's handling of the Dexter Hillsdale sighting.
Yeah.
And the Air Force said, "All right,"
Yeah.
which was another mistake because
Yeah.
it just made them look even worse.
It's crazy because Gerald Ford, because right now he's a congressman. He later goes on to be president. He said,
But does he?
yeah, President Ford.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that true?
Yeah, he went from being a congressman who demanded Hyneck's head on a plate to being one of our wackiest presidents by falling down all the time.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Oh,
Gerald Ford, he was a wacky fellow. He was always doing his best to keep at
Oh, my
press
Lord.
conferences.
he really was president.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought you
Yeah.
were making that up.
He made a nation laugh by falling down the stairs once, and people loved him since. That's how Chevy Chase got famous.
Really?
On SNL, Chevy Chase would do his Gerald Ford impression, to where he'd just get up, be like, "Hi everyone, my name is Gerald Ford," and then he'd fall down, and everyone was like, "This is the height of comedy."
He's got it.
They're like, laughter was so much easier back then. You just had to fall down, and people thought you were a comedic genius. But Gerald Ford said,
Anyway.
"These incidents, which our many reliable good citizens felt were significant to justify some action by our government, and not the kind of flippant answer that was given by the Air Force when they passed it off as swamp gas." So he calls out.
Oof.
He gets that patriotism in there. He's like, "My fellow upright citizens, they're not morons. They saw something. It's not swamp gas." And then he promptly fell down the podium.
Yeah, like it makes sense for everyone to be
And the
like
Benny Hill
pretty
music
offended.
played. Yeah, that's wild. But so they call for the congressional hearing.
And only 3 people show up.
Ooh.
It's the Secretary of the Air Force, Harold D. Brown, Dr. Hyneck, and Major Quintanilla.
Oof. And Quintanilla's like half passed out. Like he's not even dressed right. He's just like, let's get this over with, boys.
What are we here for?
So, but Brown says something that's pretty sensible.
How now?
He says that although there are indeed 648 unexplained Bluebook reports, none of them proved ET intelligence, extraterrestrial intelligence, or posed a threat to the U.S.
Yeah.
Which I feel is a pretty sensible answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, we also solved 10 of them for sure.
Yeah. Hyneck said this, though, to kind of add, just make his life worse, I guess.
Yeah.
He says, complete adherence to the policy that all UFO reports had conventional explanations may turn out to be a roadblock in the pursuit of research endeavors. And he also called for a civilian panel of scientists to examine the UFO program critically, or the UFO phenomenon critically, and to determine if a major problem actually existed.
Yeah.
Which
He
they do.
Just
do
stood
something
there,
about.
ripped his shirt open, was like, I'm right here. Do it. Do it now.
Well, right after that, though, it's weird because Quintanilla lies.
Yeah.
Like, just straight up. And he says, when asked about if there was ever, like, unidentified aircraft caught on radar, he says, we have no radar cases that are unexplained.
Yeah.
Which is, like...
Just like, excuse me, sir, let me just pull up these reports that have been signed by you. We add in hot sauce extensively with chips on the corners because you eat at work. It says that some of this radar is not explainable at all. And he's like, I didn't write that.
Basically.
They're all explained, boys. Let's come on. The Bloody Mary bar is waiting for me. Let's get this over with.
Basically.
Damn, Cryptid is such a clucker. Should we talk about how we got the job, or?
Didn't we already?
No, I don't know if we did.
I mean, they essentially just handed it to him.
Yeah.
They were looking for somebody with a degree in physics.
Yeah.
And then somebody who was like,
it was
like,
someone who had
sensible,
open-minded. Yeah. See if you can find the entire. It's great.
It says
This is a Craigslist ad.
We have all of this in 1.5, which is another reason you should go listen to that.
Oh, dang. Well, basically, I guess we talked about it in 1.5. Quintanilla is just some schmo who showed up and was like, well, I'm the bare minimum. What's the bare minimum? A person who can stand for at least 25 minutes at a time.
Exactly. It says
like you're hired.
They were looking for a man with a degree in physics with maturity, drive, and who was cool under pressure. And he literally said that he only had the degree.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any of that other
Yeah.
stuff.
But
That's who we're dealing with.
Yeah, but apparently his wife made really good Mexican food, so.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's what one of the articles said.
What?
He said before he became a major, he used to train. I think he was like a paratrooper or something, you know. And he trained with a bunch of boys who were from like San Antonio, and like he was like, they're like, man, we really miss like good like food, and he's just like, oh, hey, guess what? My wife makes really good Mexican food, and they're like, all right, so I guess he just fed everybody Mexican food.
And she's lived in legend ever since.
Yeah, it's just that's the legacy of Quintanilla.
Well, and it's kind of converse to what's actually happened, but all of this negative publicity made Hyneck kind of a celebrity.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knew who he was.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
It's true.
Yeah, so he had, like, lectures, interviews, public appearances, like, every day after this.
Yeah.
And, like, his friends, Valet and Powers, were, like, really worried he was going to, like, collapse from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Because he was just doing so much.
He's living off nothing but shakes,
It's
too.
unfortunate that didn't happen at, like, the beginning of Bluebook, when things were actually rolling.
Yeah.
Because nothing's going on now.
Back when they actually had a bona fide Flatwoods monster to deal with. Now they just got swamp gas.
Uh,
Yeah, this poor man.
And he even appeared on a CBS television news special called UFO, Friend, Foe, or Fantasy.
Ooh.
And it was a 60-minute special reassuring the country's fears. And this is kind of his start with his feud with Carl Sagan.
Okay.
And
From the Cosmos.
It makes my blood boil every time, man.
Ooh, let's go.
You guys, it's a long one.
I used here at Cryptid Campfire, we used to respect Carl Sagan for all the advancements he did for like telling people about science, but he used to never talk about UFOs, so he just was discredited immediately in our book.
In our book. We'll discredit him for other reasons.
Yeah.
But, so Hyneck has this quote that he says on the show. He says, "You might call me a study in puzzlement. But among the tremendous noise, or static, or crud, or whatever you want to call it, the tremendous number of unreliable reports that are easily explained, there is this residue of most interesting cases that intrigue me, the same way a good mystery story intrigues me, and I would like to get the solution. I don't think it's space people, although I would be delighted if it turned out that way, because as an astronomer, I would think it would make astronomy even more interesting than it is.
Oh, also, when was this special?
1966, I believe.
Dang, and he's dropping crud on national television on CBS.
Yeah.
Talk about some words you can't say on TV
Yeah,
at
body
the time.
man.
And
it was
then,
a maverick.
well, he says all that, which I feel like is very respectable.
That was pretty
He's
good.
basically saying that he's like, there are unidentified flying objects in our atmosphere, and I don't think that necessarily means that it's aliens from a different planet.
Yeah.
And then Sagan gets up and he basically says that the UFO myth is a demeaning need for humans to believe in a benevolent, omnipotent beings in long white robes that will save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
So harsh.
Oh,
Dang.
it gets worse. This is like just the beginning.
Oh.
This
He
is on
says-
TV.
This is on TV.
Man.
Just
Dang.
wait, it's all like on TV.
This is what airs before like Howdy Doody and stuff. Like, gosh.
What commercials do you play after this
Yeah.
brutal takedown, dude?
I don't know, man.
It's like.
But they kept editing. The editing of the video, like according to Valet, was that they kept editing Hyneck to be the bad guy.
Yeah.
That like there was no rebuttal. It was Hyneck would say something and then Sagan would just come in and roast him.
Ooh.
And just like it kept happening for like an hour.
Just charred that man.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But
Oh.
there is some good news.
Is a silver lining?
I guess not from the TV show, but from the hearing, from the congressional hearing,
Yeah.
where Hyneck called for a civilian panel to study the UFO phenomena, because the House of Armed Services Committee directed Secretary Brown to recruit a group of universities to study UFOs,
Yeah.
and no one said yes. They got a no from MIT, from Harvard, from the University of California.
Oh.
They approached 25 universities in total, and all of them said no.
No,
And
sir.
not only this, but they offered them like $300,000 grants to do it.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, I'm not going to put UFOs in this university.
Is this rock bottom?
Yeah, it kind of
No.
gets better from here.
I was gonna say the only silver lining was after the Carl Sagan Hyneck debate. That was kind of BS. They're leaving the studio. You know, Sagan's going around the corner. Hyneck comes up behind him, pushes him off the road, almost falls off the cliff. Sagan's hanging there by hand. Hyneck comes over, grabs him, picks him up. He's like, "Hey Sagan, remember when I said I'd kill you last? I lied." And
What?
drops Carl Sagan.
I couldn't tell if this was real or not.
Carl Sagan falls down, the car falls down, explodes. And that's when Hyneck gets serious.
What?
We will give you $300,000 in grants if you do this.
Or take the money or we'll send Hyneck after you. The killing machine.
Well, basically, everyone's against Hyneck and
Yeah.
against the scientific study of UFOs.
Yeah.
But that's
They're like, what are we going to study next? Unicorns?
well, the beginning of what kind of turns it around is this guy named Dr. James McDonald, and he was a professor of atmospheric physics at the University of Arizona.
Oh.
Do you
Don't
know
look
this?
at me.
Did you have him in a class?
What was his name?
Dr. James McDonald.
This is in 1966?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many
No.
Dr. James McDonald's have you seen?
So Dr. James McDonald actually saw a UFO in 1954.
On his farm?
Well, no. While driving in the desert with his friends.
Oh.
And Bluebook handled his report,
They choked him.
and
They took care of it,
Took care of him.
quote
He's
unquote.
sleeping with the fishes now.
and like nobody investigated. Not even NICAP would like investigate his
His story.
And
Even NICAP was like, nah, sorry. We're NICAP at
We
all.
don't really
but
do that kind of stuff
we,
anymore.
Even we have our standards
right.
as they went to go investigate the trash for food.
And but he had connections to the Air Force, and so he actually pulled on these connections to get access to Bluebook files.
Whoa.
So he like was looking through them and he found in a copy of the 1952 Robertson Panel Report, which hadn't been seen by a whole lot of people, that the panel's recommendation was that the United States Air Force used Bluebook to debunk UFOs.
Yeah.
And this was 1952.
Yeah.
And so he got so mad. He showed up to Hyneck's office to confront Hyneck, and he was enraged. He was pounding on the table and was saying all the good UFO cases that Hyneck had dismissed with absurd explanations. Oh, wait, what?
Whoa.
That was not a direct quote.
Oh,
That's
I was going
what
to say,
he was...
dang, everyone's waxing poetic left and right.
No. But basically he was saying, Hyneck dismissed all these good
You're a
UFO
liar.
cases.
You're
And
a cheat and a liar.
He challenged Hyneck to explain himself.
Ooh.
And all Hyneck was he just started laughing. He's like, finally, someone understands. He's like, you understand what I'm going through.
You solved the puzzle. You get the chocolate factory.
You did
Yes.
it. You did it. By God, you did it.
He said, here's a direct quote about what he said about
Hyneck's
it.
office even looked like Willy Wonka's office.
The
Everything
wall's full. It's like the elevator.
Everything's cut in half for some reason.
He said, you have no idea what a relief it was. It was like taking off a pair of very tight shoes to have a sympathetic listener. There was not one of my colleagues interested in it.
Sorry.
There was not one of my colleagues interested in it, not even on my own staff. All those people were absolutely convinced I was a nut. So the very fact that Jim McDonald existed was a relief. And even though he thought I was wrong and should have gone and pounded on the doors of the generals. Or even though he thought I was wrong. Yeah, whatever.
It was nice to have a voice to listen to. It was
Yeah.
damn shame I had to shoot him dead where he stood.
It's pretty funny that the Air Force and all of them are just using Project Bluebook to debunk UFOs and sweep everything under the rug and keep themselves from looking stupid.
Yeah.
And they just end up making themselves look even more stupid.
Well, it's great how the guy pulls some strings to get the classified.
Yeah, that's a
Blue
cool
Book.
ass dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But also they were probably at that point they were like, some guy was like, hey, do you mind if I take the Project Bluebook files home for the weekend? Oh, what the hell? Take them. Take the JFK assassination too. That's old news by now.
Yeah, it's like Robert Graysmith doing the Zodiac case.
Yeah.
It's similar where he's just getting all these files and because he's not technically an officer,
Yeah,
so he can ask permission.
Yeah.
It's just
Pretty cool.
loopholes.
That's very cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah. Well, after this, Hyneck kind of breaks cover, and he submits a letter about UFOs in Project Bluebook to the editors of Science, which is an academic journal for the American Association for the Advancement of Science, the AAAS.
Bunch of nerds.
The AS.
As.
And it appears in October 1966, and it took up an entire page of this magazine. And he talked about his tenure as a UFO investigator, and he addressed 7 misconceptions about UFOs, which I would like to share with you guys.
Yeah.
Because at this time, everyone's still against him.
Yeah.
So he's talking...
He's like John Wick, constantly hunted down every day.
Well, he's kind of addressing skeptics here.
Yeah.
He's saying that, well, misconception number 1 was that only UFO buffs report UFOs, which is not true. Because people from all different walks of life report UFOs.
Yeah.
And number 2, UFOs are reported by unreliable, unstable, and uneducated people, which is also false. Because although there is some of that, but there's also like Kenneth Arnold,
Yeah.
who is a seasoned pilot.
Oh yeah.
Also a very smart guy.
I mean, all the pilots are just
Yeah.
flying things stuff. It's just the bunch of morons that can operate, an extreme piece of aircraft. They're clearly dumb because they can't tell a star from a UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3, UFOs are never reported by scientifically trained people. Also false. Number 4, UFOs are never seen at close range and are always reported vaguely. Also not true.
Yeah.
Because people have been abducted.
Yeah, just ask the hills, man.
Yeah, so...
It's just those people, no, they fell into a pocket of swamp gas, hallucinated for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So, number 5 is a little different. The Air Force has no evidence that UFOs are extraterrestrial or represent advanced technology of any kind. This is not true because technically the Air Force shouldn't have been against the extraterrestrial hypothesis.
Yeah.
Hyneck certainly wasn't, but that wasn't something he he wasn't trying to figure out if UFOs are from aliens.
Yeah.
He was just trying to figure out what UFOs are.
Yeah.
And if he didn't know, it was unexplained.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they were dead set against aliens.
They're like, no.
Yeah.
Nothing from the skies.
Number 6, UFO reports are generated by publicity,
Mm-hmm.
which is not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just like fabricated, all of these sightings.
Yeah.
Although some of them have garnered publicity, none of them are really generated by publicity.
Yeah.
And number 7, UFOs had never been sighted on radar or photographed by meteor or satellite tracking cameras,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously, if you look at the Washington merry-go-round, they
Oh,
were
yeah.
definitely on radar.
Yeah.
There was like what? Like a bunch of them, right?
Yeah, a bunch of them.
That was just a flock of geese set off the wires.
We got a bogey.
We got about 10,000 bogeys coming in.
But around the time that this article comes out in the magazine, in Science Magazine, they finally get a yes to the civilian panel to study UFOs.
Okay.
And it's announced that Dr. Edward U. Condon from the University of Colorado was to chair a committee that would settle the UFO issue once and for all.
Yeah.
And this became known as the Condon Committee.
It was their settle it right there, right then, in the squared circle.
Yeah, also AKA Colorado Project. I think we'll be using those terms interchangeably.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah. So, and that actually was such a big announcement that all the spotlight was off of Hyneck for like one day.
Yeah.
And he was so happy he took his wife out for drinks. No joke.
That's
That's
probably
what
got some good sleep that night.
Yeah.
happened.
Got wasted.
And that's when I'm going to go back to the Betty and Barney Hill report
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Remember those guys?
Yeah, we talked about them in our first episode.
Our first week of space, or it was like a third week of space.
Yeah, but
what
alien
the
abduction
heck?
tropes.
The timelines all over the place.
well, look them up in the alien abduction tropes. We
Yeah.
talk about them, and I had no info on that at the time.
Oh yeah, but what you got
But
now?
you got it now,
But
dude.
I
Now
got it
you know that Barney Hill, secret CIA agent, gunned down in the prime of his life at an airport by Joseph Joe
Yeah,
Hyneck.
and he couldn't stop looking at his privates in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, that's because he had warts.
Whoa.
I have that here. So what makes me really sad about this is that for those who don't know, they were abducted while on the road home,
Mm-hmm.
and but they had this big time loss, and they didn't know what to think of it, and so for like 2 years, they would just on the weekends would just drive the same route
Mm-hmm.
that they drove that night, trying to figure out where they lost 2 hours of their life.
Right.
And like they were convinced that there was some side road that they had missed,
Mm.
and they could never find it, and that makes me like really sad.
Yeah.
They're being plagued by like nightmares, and
Yeah.
like Barney's health is like declining. Like he
Mm.
has ulcers flaring up, he gets high blood pressure, he has circles of warts around his like groin.
Mm.
Like they're like trying to figure out what went wrong.
Yeah.
It's like so sad. And you know, Betty dreamed of like strange men abducting her, and actually, it's going back a little bit. In 1963, they saw Dr. Benjamin Simon. We talked a little bit about this,
Mhm.
the hypnosis.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they went for like a couple weeks actually, and each time they added more details because at first they like really didn't want to relive those memories.
Right.
They like begged.
That was
like
pretty scary.
They begged to not wake up, and they like begged to wake up, to like
Mhm.
bring us out of this. I don't want to remember this. But like week by week they like provided more details, and this was held separately, and the results weren't shared with each other, but they were bringing up like the same details,
Right.
which is like pretty wild.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy to do when you have two people separated and you get the same story.
Yeah. And so fast forward to 1966, they're kind of celebrities in the UFO world, and they're just like happy that people believe them. you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty wild. But Hyneck, after swamp gas, he was attracting a bunch of like big, high-profile cases, and like the Hills. So this is when he investigated the Hills,
Okay.
and he actually had dinner with them, and they did an hour and a half of hypnotherapy with both of them, reliving
The
their experience. But what struck Hyneck about it, and what kind of strikes me as interesting once Hyneck pointed it out, was that their story has no like pseudo-religious UFO cult overtones,
Mm-hmm.
like which is basically why he avoided contactee reports.
Right.
because he didn't really investigate. Like, if you said you saw an alien, he wasn't really going to investigate.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, we talked about an injured cold. Like, that's, like, all about, oh, we should love each other. Like,
Yeah.
we don't understand what war is.
We're an alien race that has not developed clothes.
Yeah, it's, like, and the Hills case had nothing like that. They're like, this is what we saw. It was terrifying. But there
Yeah.
wasn't, like, the aliens were coming with, like, some sort of pseudo-religious message.
Or they weren't like trying to sell them real estate or anything.
No.
That's crazy.
But Hyneck struggled with it because he couldn't identify a pattern.
Right.
It was just like, it was really the first time he was investigating a report of this kind. And he had no explanation for it. Because he believed them. He thought they were telling the truth.
Yeah.
But he just like...
He's just like, I can't explain the weirdos in the UFO.
Yeah.
And all the crackerjack stuff that happened.
Crackerjack.
And
Barney died not long after, right?
yeah, his health really went downhill. And I don't know if it was a result of this or if he went like radioactive.
Whoa. He was a ticking time bomb.
Well, I'm gonna cut back to the Condon Committee.
Okay,
Yeah.
what happened with the Condon?
Well, they figured it would be a good idea to bring in prominent persons
Oh,
in
no.
ufology to discuss with them. So they thought it would best to bring Mr. UFO, aka Dr. J. Allen Hyneck,
Yeah.
into this. Hurricane Hyneck, aka Mr. UFO.
They're like, hailing from parts unknown, Mr. UFO, J. Justice Hurricane Hyneck.
So many nicknames.
Yeah, he's just
The
like
human spider.
The human spider.
His shirts that he sells just has like nothing but prepositions on it and nouns.
So, and so Hyneck says, he's like, sure, I'll talk, but you gotta bring my buddy
You gotta pay
Valet,
me.
Jacques Valet. And so they go and they discuss UFOs, the research that they've uncovered.
Yeah.
He talks about the issues with Bluebook, so they know what to avoid, and they end up kind of making the same mistakes. Eventually,
Yeah.
he talks about how they have minuscule budgets and the fact that the Air Force forced him to take commercial flights to investigation scenes.
Yeah.
And he had to wait for approval to take commercial airline flights to go investigate, despite the fact he was working for the Air Force.
Yeah.
Like, they couldn't fly him out. It's the Air Force. They have all these airplanes laying around.
And pilots laying around, too.
They made him take coach. They didn't
That's
even give him
horrible.
first class or business.
And
I
they
know, I'm
sent
pretty
him
sure he had to
alone.
pay that out of pocket. Like,
And he was by himself.
Yeah, dang, that's crazy.
he also talked about how whenever he described things as possibly being a balloon or a possible aircraft, it changed in the final report to being, it was an aircraft. It was a balloon. And
Oops-a-daisy.
he said, and when they asked him, like, why do you stay with it? He was like, I'm in it for the data.
Yeah.
Like, these are the only people with the data. Like, I'm not going to, like...
We offered MIT money. We offered Cal State Fullerton. We offered...
The whole shebang,
the whole
dude.
shebang, and
Everybody
everyone said no. So I'm out here.
What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. What do you want from me? I got nowhere else to go.
I'm not going back to teaching college courses, okay?
I can't go back to college, not after what I did last time.
Yeah. And
Left
he
a
said...
string of broken hearts and broken noses.
They don't call me Hurricane Hyneck for nothing.
Ooh, party animal. Woo!
Hyneck said that this was the time he got caught into a hurricane.
Oh, himself.
He kind of changed his mind. He started re-examining old cases and stopped looking at it like...
like an Air Forceman.
Well,
and
yeah,
more like
kind
a
of. He's
human.
like, you can't, like, just because these people, all they have is a story doesn't mean you can't discredit them. He was saying, here we go. Here's another direct quote for you guys. He said, I'm just not going to continue calling these people liars, deluded brains, and so forth, even though some of them can't tell Venus from a hole in the ground.
Oh.
They're people whose testimonies would be accepted in a court of law in any other context. By what right do I have to continue to doubt their words? Which shows like his like transformation's happening.
I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? Because you figure, like you said, in court, it's just like someone get on the stand and it's just like, you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Yeah. Like, all right, well, it's the truth. And then it was like, well, I saw a UFO flying around, and it picked up a cow and did a zippy zap, and
Yeah.
they're like, sir, you got to leave right now. And it's like, but the other guy said that, you know, he didn't see the person crossing the street when clearly there's footage of him watching the person cross the street
Right.
and waving at them. Like, why is my stuff not accounted for?
Exactly.
That's pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
Just take each other for their word, and we hope it means something.
But that's when Quintanilla started doing things to Hyneck.
He started standing up for more than 5 minutes at a
Talking
time.
about hazing.
I don't know about hazing, but
He brought out the paddle.
so he told Hyneck that he couldn't review the reports of the Condon Committee as long as he was an Air Force consultant.
Mm.
So basically barred him out of that.
Yeah.
He told him that he had to stop identifying himself as a scientific consultant for the United States Air Force when talking at pseudoscientific panels.
Uh-oh. This is like the sign of like a breakup.
They disowning him, dude?
Yeah,
Well,
slowly. They're like...
What's even worse is that they blocked him from accessing Bluebook files.
Yeah,
Like, he
his
couldn't
own
even-
files that he wrote.
Yeah, he couldn't look at them anymore. He had to like the only thing he could do was like the files he had at home.
Yeah.
We need to get that University of Arizona professor back over here, dude. Steal all the files.
Who?
The guy that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Dr.
We'll get
James
him
McDonald.
to grab everything.
Yeah, played
Yeah.
by Ocean's 11.
I don't understand that reference.
Played by Ocean's 11.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say an
Clooney.
actor. I was like, what?
George Clooney.
So what does he do?
He publishes an article in a very, very popular magazine,
Playboy.
Playboy.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
And he calls it the UFO Gap, and it's in a 1967 issue of Playboy.
Now you really can just read it for the articles.
Well, it's actually one of the most talked about articles.
Yeah.
And in this, he suggested a new way of categorizing UFO sightings based on the strangeness of the event and the credibility of the witness.
Yeah.
Which seems really scientific for a magazine of this kind.
Yeah, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
Gotta let the people know.
Yeah.
But, like-
imagine the pinup that episode was even dressed like an alien.
Yeah,
And it's just like
not-
it's super distasteful and shoddy, but also there's just like a serious article about aliens.
He's got the magazine flipped sideways, and then you go to see what he's looking at. It's like an alien with a UFO.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like, hot mama.
Come to daddy.
Well, one of the editors actually told him, this is the most times we got in the letter about the actual article instead of like how to get in contact with the latest Playboy model.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
That's
Like,
crazy.
That's funny.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like, and what he did was in the article as well, he compared UFO sightings to a tornado,
Yeah.
to where you can't take a tornado and study it in a lab,
Mhm.
but you can study the results of a tornado.
Yeah, and
and
kind
it's
of
like,
piece it together.
In the same way, you can't take a UFO and study it in a lab, but you can study the results of a UFO, you know, whether it be like physical markings
Mhm.
or,
I mean, the Hills had, like, their clothes were damaged.
yeah, like stuff like that.
There's a few times he's gone somewhere and there's been scorch marks,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
on the
exactly.
ground. It's just like, well, that's physical
Yeah.
proof.
Some
like,
people get sunburn, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
you get the sunburns, you know, like, so there's stuff that's just like,
Mhm.
well, clearly you can see the effects of something and kind of piece it together.
Well, to add to this, Hyneck, and I think this was an attempt to get access back to Bluebook files,
Mhm.
he suggested that the school that he taught at, Northwestern University, that if they take a $250,000 contract from the Air Force, that they would transfer Bluebook reports into computer files.
Okay.
And they basically said everything but no.
Okay.
And they said, because of the sensitive nature of any research related to UFOs, we feel that for the contract to be negotiated by Northwestern University, the following conditions must be met. And there was like a bunch of non-essential, time-consuming tasks, and it even included a board of advisors to overlook a data transfer.
Yeah.
Like,
They're like, also you gotta.
Pretty excessive.
They're like, you gotta make Hyneck walk up and down the campus in a thong.
well, they were really against, kind of like how the Air Force said you can't say you work for the Air Force whenever you're speaking.
Yeah.
His school basically said the same thing. They said, you can't talk about Northwestern University whenever you're speaking.
Whoa.
You're on your own, pal.
Yeah, and it's weird because he was like really making it popular. Like
Yeah,
really, like a lot of people went to
actually
Northwestern for him.
drumming up interest, and he's just like, "Hi everyone, my name's J. Allen Hyneck. You may know me from insert college here, also from insert government-funded project to look into UFOs here. You also may know me as J. Hurricane Hyneck, and I'm here to bust some ass."
Everyone's just booting him and reaping the benefits, dude.
Yeah,
this is
crazy.
And it just keeps going, dude.
And they pushed him too far.
Carl Sagan is just ripping him a new one.
Oh,
Yeah.
you guys
live television.
got nothing yet.
Oh yeah, we really do
but-
got nothing yet.
Like I said in part 1, though, Hyneck went around talking to a bunch of scientists, asking them what they knew about UFOs, if they were interested.
Yeah.
The results from that was that 41% of like major scientists were like interested in studying UFOs, and that was back in 1952. He got that study. So it kind of began in 1960. So this is like 7 years before where we are right now. But it's called the Invisible College.
Okay.
And it was Jacques Vallée, Bill Powers, a guy named Fred Beckman, who were all at Dearborn Observatory, and they all investigated UFO sightings. And Bluebook was more open with their files, so he would like give them Bluebook files to like look at too to help him out. And that was like the first like they all did it in their spare time. You know, whenever they had time, they would look at these Bluebook files and try to like help him out. And they were more sympathetic to human factors instead of like Bluebook was like there's a conventional explanation. They were more sympathetic to like people
Like the
missing
testimonies
details,
and stuff.
you
Yeah.
know.
I would hope so. I mean, if they're doing it in their spare time, I wouldn't think they're gonna be biased. Or
That's
anything
kind of like, you know, Jay Hyneck started being like, stop looking at it from the Project Bluebook point of view.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, just figure it out. Like, if it's a UFO, you know, that's cool, but probably not. And to being like, well, what are these people saying? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm now noticing details about how it affected these people. Like,
Well,
why would they lie?
like one interesting case, I didn't get down all the details, but one report of a UFO over the Hudson Bay. There was a pilot who like swerved way out of his flight line to avoid it, even though it wasn't really close to him. And then there's a drunk guy from a bar. He was leaving a bar when he saw it, and he had the exact time right, and he had like major details about the lighting of what it looked like and everything. And they found out what it was. It was like a test from U.S. government, something to do with like rockets or something.
Oh, it's just,
but like
just a floating
so
orb.
they had like the exact information of what it was and what it
Okay.
looked like, and the drunk was more accurate than the pilot.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know, you never really know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that kind of kept coming up, is that the people who you would think were less reliable ended up having more, like, the more reliable the witness was, the less reliable their information was.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting, though.
Started looking at the human element.
Mm-hmm. And so they were trying to figure out what UFOs are. And the Condon Committee was trying to figure out whether or not UFOs are from aliens, which is a question that's a lot more difficult to answer. But also, Condon hated UFOs, and he said that they barely qualified to be scientifically studied by a university, which hurt his committee. He
Ooh.
said this. He's running the committee, and he said that.
He's just like, yeah, so
You
this...
just took it to prove a point, huh?
Not only that, he didn't say UFO. He said UFO.
Oh, no.
Not even UFO? He
No,
said
he said
UFO?
UFO.
Who is
He's like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, UFOs ain't worth a crap in a bag. And he's like, but you're the founder of the group. And he's just like,
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I don't want to
You
be...
volunteered us for this, dude.
Like, this is
You're
like...
the one who brought the cupcakes.
And this is like highly publicized, and like everyone's like fighting. The Condon
Yeah.
Committee is basically just like a bunch of people fighting
It's like Twitter.
about basically it was Twitter in real life. And all of these disagreements and their squabbles were all reported like front page news
Oh
stuff.
gosh,
Like
it's just like,
it's
oh, Congressman so-and-so of the Condon Council called Senator so-and-so a craphead. And like, oh
Yeah.
no, that's the top headline.
well, not only that, there's a guy named David Saunders working at the Condon Committee.
Yeah.
He comes back in the Hyneck story later. But Condon told Saunders that if he did find evidence of UFOs, physical proof, he wasn't going to release it to the public.
Yeah.
What? That's the whole purpose of
So
this.
yeah, so what is he trying to do?
He's just being a clucker.
I don't know.
He literally took the job and the money and was like,
He's
And,
like,
like,
I don't
bought
wanna, no one's gonna hear about my UFOs.
bought a beach home.
Basically. And this is kind of like where it all kind of ends.
Yeah.
The Condon Committee ends. Bluebook is kind of fizzling out.
Like I think that what the Air Force releases, they're just like, honestly, it's a big waste of time and money.
Mm-hmm.
That's like their official statement.
Well,
Yeah, and they're saying it's not a threat.
Yeah, they're like, at the end of the day,
And there
was
could be
nothing
threats
there.
that they're not focusing on because
Yeah.
they're spending so much time on Bluebook.
Mhm.
and the final report of the Condon report is that UFOs provided no value to the scientific community.
Yeah.
Just like everything's just kind of like closing. Like they're just trying to usher in the end of the UFO era.
They're just like, that was a wacky fad, huh? Like
Yeah.
Pogs.
It's
Remember
a-
Pogs? They're not a threat anymore. We don't need to investigate them.
That's a blow, dude.
Yeah. But not only this, we're entering our friend Carl Sagan again.
Uh-oh.
To
En-
add
en-
more.
Enter the Sagan.
Our boy's back.
He's badder than ever.
Yep. So he's teaming up with the American Association for the Advancement of Science.
Okay.
Um,
Us, right?
Us.
Us.
And so they're persuaded by Carl Sagan and this guy named Thornton Page to hold a symposium for UFOs in December 1969, which is a full year after the final report for the Condon Committee
Sure.
comes out.
Right.
Yeah, and so this is Hyneck's there,
Yeah.
obviously, to talk at the symposium. And this is when he reveals his close encounter system.
Oh, yeah.
So, does anyone want to share what that is so I
Yeah.
can stop my monologue?
Ugh,
I love
Dog.
it, dude.
you wacky dog. You got me monologuing. Did you want to break down this
If
Hyneck
you have it there,
scale?
if you've got it there, you do it.
I-
don't
I
have
got
on
it,
there. 'Cause
yeah.
I wrote "see iPad" on my paper.
Oh, no. And then you left your iPad in the other room. In the other room of the spaceship. All the aliens are playing Candy Crush, and then just like, what is this? Take it to your leader, and they're like swiping left and right everywhere. So we got the Hyneck scale, also known as the Close Encounter scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it was first published or made known in 1972
Yeah.
in his book.
Yeah, that's when he first publishes it, but
Okay,
he
but-
kind of like reveals it to
At-
the public.
At this
at this-
symposium.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's made most widely popular
In
through
his
the
book.
book. First drop in 1969, December 21st, you said?
I don't believe I said all that.
Oh.
You said it was 69, though, right?
Yeah, it's 69.
Yeah.
But,
I thought it was like December.
Christmas
December
time, baby.
1969.
Oh, there we
yeah.
go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's in his book, The UFO Experience, A Scientific Inquiry.
Mhm.
And he breaks them down to 6 classifications of of a UFO scenario.
Okay.
It's arranged according to increasing proximity.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's kind of how he bases it on.
Mhm.
So the very first one is nocturnal lights.
That's close encounter of the first kind.
That's
No,
just,
that's-
that's the first
oh,
thing on the
We're
scale.
not there yet.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
all right.
The first step is nocturnal lights.
Okay.
It's in the name.
Just literally, you see lights in the sky.
You see
That's
lights
it.
in the sky, you're like, whoa, I just saw a nocturnal light.
All right.
Step 2, daylight discs.
Okay.
It's now removed from night to day where you can more clearly see it, and you can probably make up the form that is a disc and or something.
So kind of like the Mantell case. That would be
Yes.
close encounter, or no,
that's just
a daylight disc.
Daylight disc.
Okay.
That's what's crazy. Ooh, ghostly visitation.
They don't like us talking about daylight
Oh,
discs.
they're
I
just
guess.
like, don't talk about my disc in the daylight. And then the third one is radar visual.
Okay.
And these are UFO reports that have actually been confirmed on the radar.
All right.
So you have a bleep, a bloop. The machinery
A
is telling
whodad.
you a whodad. This machinery is telling you there's something there.
Okay.
So that's not just visual proof. That's you having something confirm it.
Okay.
So that's the third step.
Mhm.
And now we get into the close encounters because now this is when it's actually close encounters.
Okay.
Because the close encounters of the first kind is a visual sighting about 500 feet away.
Mhm.
So you're like you got it dead to rights looking at it. You can actually make it out that it's not something you know.
Mhm.
It's an actual flying disc,
Mhm.
unidentified object. Next is close encounter of the second kind, where there is some kind of physical effect.
Okay.
So that's when you get like your sunburns,
It says animals reacting.
animals reacting, electronic disturbances, static, weird effects like heat distortion or scorch marks.
So this is like the Hillsdale sighting, like stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is second kind. So it's actually in front of you and it's causing some kind of effect physically.
Oh, okay.
And now we got close encounters of the third kind, which is when the aliens show up. And they make their presence known. You have them. You see an alien. It's looking at you. That's a close encounter of the third kind.
And that moment is directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Which actually had J. Allen Hynek in it.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah. But so that is the Hynek scale.
That is the Hyneck.
So the first three are you just seeing something, and then it kicks in to the close encounters when there's actually some kind of, close encounter.
Yeah.
It's just it's in the name. Like
Yeah.
he thought of everything. It's not the Hynek scale or what to do if you think you see some kind of interdimensional being that may or may not be in front of you.
Close encounters for dummies.
Yeah. Read the flip notes.
And and I know you have like an extended scale.
I mean, I don't know when they extended it.
Okay.
So that's the original Hynek scale, and
Yeah.
then other things have been added onto it unofficially.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much, it's like there's.
So these weren't added by Hynek?
No.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I want to say he just kept it simple
Okay.
because everything else is just like, oh well, you done seen an alien and it kind of touched you with its right
Yeah.
hand,
But
but if it touched you with your left hand, that's a close encounter of the 45th kind -2. Like it's all just breaking down. It's just
Yeah.
like
Okay.
it's kind of unnecessary from what I could tell, because there's like the Blothar add-ons.
Okay.
but Jacques Vallée talks about the fourth kind.
Okay. What's that?
But it says refers to cases when witnesses experience the transformation of their sense of reality.
Oh, so like.
That's of the
When
fourth
the
kind
aliens
is when,
open
like,
your third eye.
they hallucinate.
Oh,
or, like
whoa.
they think they see things,
Oh, so this is like kind of like part of that stage where they're interviewing you, right? The aliens are like interviewing you, and they like start projecting images into your mind.
I guess so.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's just like taking it further than the
that's
aliens
that's
are
just
like there.
that's an example. Like
Yeah.
it could be anything.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the.
But I mean, the hills technically would be a fourth kind, right?
Yeah.
Would
Because
it?
because their mind got warped.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, because they like
were
skipped
inside
ahead.
their minds.
Yeah.
Mind
And
freak,
she's
if you
having
will.
those dreams that are kind of like similar to the situation they're in.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the aliens, I think, were even like talking in their heads and
Yeah,
stuff too. So it's
exactly.
just like,
Huh, makes sense.
yeah,
Well, I guess getting back to the narrative then.
yeah, that was the Hynek scale.
The
or what you
Hyneck
will.
scale. 5 months after his contract ends with Bluebook,
Mhm.
Hyneck is back at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with a new contract to the Foreign Technology Division, or FTD for short, to study Soviet satellites. Because Hyneck basically created high-altitude observation and satellite tracking,
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
the Air Force was like,
kind of need this guy.
yo, since you're done with those UFOs, you want to work for us? Hey, you!
Hey, hey, fella, you want to bring your the FTD over?
The FTD, Foreign Tech Division.
So what goes on during that time?
I didn't get a whole lot because
He-
I skip ahead
he-
to 72.
They
Okay.
fly
To
him
the-
to Russia, drop him in, one-man army style, and he just assassinates Rasputin.
I guess, yeah.
Because Rasputin died in, 1917? The first time he did, yeah.
What?
Continued on living a couple more times.
That is true.
Until Hynek came out and,
Ended it.
put the hammer and sickle to the chest style.
He was tired of it.
He's like, I'm done with your clownery.
Anyway.
So that's when we get to 72,
Yeah.
and he releases The UFO Experience, a scientific inquiry,
Whoa.
which you told us about the close encounter scale
Yeah.
in his book, and he also explained cases of each kind in his
Mhm.
book, and he also, of course, he had to go out there and point out the flaws of both Bluebook and the Condon Committee in his book. He talks about how they didn't view people as people. He's like,
they viewed him as animals.
and here's a quote. He said, "These people are not merely names in a telephone book. They are flesh and blood persons who, as far as they're concerned, have had experiences as real to them as seeing a car coming down the street is to others."
Mhm.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because Bluebook, these people have like traumatizing experiences, and they're just
Yeah.
like, yeah, that was a satellite.
Yeah.
Especially because
Go cope
Yeah.
somewhere else.
It's because in the beginning everyone was reaching out to the U.S. They're like, we're getting calls left and right about these UFOs. We need a specialized task force. You
Yeah.
know, and Project Bluebook was getting the calls, and it's just like because they're like, I saw something in the sky. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Call the government. I saw this. I need help? And they're just like, yeah, it was swamp gas on parachute with a fire. So like, get back to your life.
Yeah,
like,
because again,
jeez.
like the
you
the
know,
percentage of the unsolved ones went from like 20 to 30% down to 0.4.
And then-
Yeah.
And then 2 months later, you get a bill from Bluebook for a waste of their time. You gotta pay
Yeah.
$1,000. Could you imagine
No,
the audacity?
it's horrible. These poor people.
That's so
So-
wild. No wonder no one started coming forward, but the people who had nothing to lose, because they're like, I got nothing to lose. I live in the swamp.
Well, I'm gonna flash forward
Ooh.
back to a swamp,
Oh.
and this is about a year. This is 1973, October 11th, around 9 p.m. So we have two men, Calvin Parker and Charlie Hickson, and they're fishing in Pascagoula, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie Hickson is a friend of Calvin Parker's dad.
Okay.
And I think Calvin Parker just moved to this area and was like kind of like stressed out about it.
Yeah.
And so Charlie Hickson was doing his buddy a favor and took his kid out for fishing,
Okay.
you know, just to help him relax, you know. But they've been out there for a couple of hours.
And it
Nothing.
was getting stressful.
Well, it was nighttime and still nothing had bit.
Yeah.
And they were wondering like, where did the fish go? And that's when they hear a humming in the air,
Mm.
and it's getting closer. And then they see two flashes of intense light, and it's taking shape across the bayou. Sorry, I was
Yeah.
listening to Hank Williams. He says
Bayou.
bayou.
Bio 101.
Yeah, if you don't know that song, it's called Jambalaya by Hank Williams. It's a good one.
Oh.
And they see this shape. They basically describe it as an egg
Yeah.
hovering across the water. It's like 30 to 40 feet across, 10
Mm.
feet high, and it stayed like roughly 50 yards from them. That's where it stopped.
Yeah.
And the door opens,
Ooh.
and three humanoid creatures, float out to them across
They
the water. Float.
Like no ramp comes down.
No, they're hovering above
That
the
is
water.
scary.
Whoa.
They
You don't,
float towards them.
don't even see the ropes
But
or
like,
anything.
what's scarier is like, these things were humanoid, but like, just humanoid, because they like, their hands were more like claws.
Yeah.
Their feet were just like nubs,
Ooh.
and
Nasty.
they had
They
like,
got little pincers for hands.
well,
Ooh.
they had cones for like a nose and for ears, and their
Ew.
mouths were just a slit, and they never
Ew.
moved. Um,
Oh, that's
Ew,
horrifying.
gross.
and they had no eyes.
Ah.
So it's just
Can
like,
you imagine seeing that in a swamp, dude?
Ugh.
The worst
Yeah.
place to see that.
well, they grabbed Charlie and Calvin and floated them back to the ship.
What?
No.
Yeah, and
no.
Calvin just passes out.
Yeah.
He like doesn't know how to handle it.
That's
But,
intense.
Yeah, you'd go into shock, dude.
like
Oh.
Charlie
no way.
stays awake for the whole thing, and they put him in this
Ooh.
room, and it's like War of the Worlds from the way he described it.
Yeah.
There's like this giant orb eye thing
Ooh.
that like floats out of the wall and stops like 6 inches in front of his face
Ugh.
and starts examining his whole body, and then retracts back into the wall.
Ooh, sketch.
And then I think, let's see, the creatures just like put him back on the shore,
Ooh.
and that's when he sees Calvin. Calvin's got his arms stretched out, and he's frozen, and his like face is just like one of like sheer like shock, like
Yeah.
fear, and like Charlie has to like slap him a couple times just to get him to like start like moving again.
Yeah.
Like he's that frozen, and he watches like these creatures float back in their ship and then fly away,
Ugh.
and like it's pretty wild.
That's horrifying.
And like they didn't know what to do, so
Yeah.
they called the sheriff. And Charlie said he had a bad idea about calling the sheriff, because he said as they pulled up he could see them laughing, but as soon as the sheriff saw that they were like freaking out, they like took them more serious.
Yeah.
And they put them, in an interrogation room to tell the full story. But this is where it gets interesting, because basically Charlie and Calvin don't want anyone to really know. They just want to tell someone.
Yeah.
And before they leave the sheriff department, they're like, you're not going to tell anyone, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not. And then the next day, people are calling their houses like, yo, so tell me about the aliens.
Oh no.
Yeah, and eventually Hyneck finds out about it. And Hyneck, like, stops by. But, you know, Hyneck doesn't investigate close encounters
Yeah.
like, cases. But this one he did because of this. Because after they told their story to the sheriff had a tape recorder in the room that he had hidden. They didn't know it was there.
Yeah.
And he left the room, and he got this recording of them once he stepped out of the room, when they thought no one was listening to their conversation. So Calvin says, I gotta get home and get to bed, or get some nerve pills, or see a doctor or something. I can't stand it. I'm about to go half crazy. And Charlie says, I tell you, when we're through, I'll get you something to settle you down so you can get some damn sleep. And Calvin says, I can't sleep yet like it is. I'm just damn near crazy. And Charlie says, well, Calvin, when they brought me out of that thing, gosh darn it, I like to never in hell got you straightened out. And Calvin said, my arms, my damn arms. I remember they just froze up and I couldn't move, just like I stepped on a damn rattlesnake.
Oh.
And Charlie said, they didn't do me that way.
Oh.
And then it's like a silence. And Calvin says, I passed out. I expect I never passed out in my whole life. And Charlie said, I've never seen nothing like that before in my life. You can't make people believe. And Calvin said, I don't want to keep sitting here. I want to see a doctor. Charlie says, they better wake up and start believing. They better start believing. And Calvin says, you see how that damn door come right up? And Charlie said, I don't know how it opens, son. I don't know. Calvin said, it just laid up, and just like that, those sons of bitches, just like that, they come out. And Charlie said, I know, you can't believe it. You can't make people believe it. Calvin said, I paralyzed right then. I couldn't move. Charlie said, they won't believe it. They're gonna believe it one of these days. Might be too late. I knew all along there was people from other worlds up there. I knew all along. I never thought it would happen to me.
Wow.
That's pretty eerie, dude.
Yeah.
That's
Can you imagine
wild.
hearing that when you leave the room?
Yeah.
Ugh. But man, that's wild. Gosh.
Yeah, and that's what.
That's
and
so
these guys,
scary.
these guys work on a shipyard. Like, they're big, tough men. Like,
Yeah.
and they're freaked out. They're passing out. Like,
They're going numb?
yeah. And guess this. In the same week this is happening, Army Reserve Captain Lawrence Coyne and his crew were flying a UH-1 Huey helicopter ambulance. It was like a helicopter ambulance on a routine flight from Columbus, Ohio, back to Cleveland. And they were there for medical exams, and all of them were perfectly healthy. And one of the crew, and his specialist second class Robert Yannick, he saw a red light on the horizon. He's not piloting. It's a first lieutenant Jesse who was pilot, but he's just like picking up on this light that's like 90 degrees east of their position, of their flight path. And 30 seconds later, he's like following the flight path, and he's like, the object is at their altitude and it's heading towards them, and it's gonna end up being a mid-air collision. And Coyne takes the controls to drop from 2,500 feet to 1,700 feet, and he checked in with the nearest base to see if an experimental aircraft was being tested, but there's no reply. Like, there's just this thing heading at them, and like, he has to drop it further. This thing is following them. So he drops it, and they're gonna like hit trees. They're gonna like crash. And that's when this red spot stopped in front of them. And it was like a 50 to 60 foot long cigar shaped object, and it blotted out the stars, they said.
Whoa.
And it stopped in front of them. They said it was like roughly 10 seconds. And then it zoomed away. And even though Coyne was still pressing down, they were now at 3,500 feet and moving up.
Yeah.
Like, that's just bonkers.
Oof.
There was like 4 other people besides Coyne. There's like, there's Yannick, Jesse, and like 2 other guys on this helicopter.
Wow.
And like, you know, Jesse regained control, and the radio worked after 10 minutes. And all men got home safe. But this happened in the same week as the other sighting, as the Parker Hickson, Parker Hickson case. And Hyneck was like investigating both of these, and he went to Wright-Patterson, and he went up there, and he's like, aren't you guys gonna do something about these cases? And they're like, no, because I mean, Bluebook didn't exist anymore. So like, technically,
Like,
got no funding.
Yeah.
you know,
like,
and-
what do you want us to do?
and Hyneck did it because he was still hopeful that they like cared.
Yeah.
Even after everything, he still was like,
just any sense of like interest.
Yeah.
yep. And this is where Carl Sagan comes in,
Oh,
and it makes
no.
me really upset.
Ugh.
So Hyneck appears on an episode of the Dick Cavett Show.
Mhm.
I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I don't know. That's some
Like old talk show.
yeah. And actually, this episode got taped over back in the 70s.
Oh no.
They just like taped over.
So it doesn't exist.
No.
Bummer.
Dang.
But
man.
we have transcriptions, so that's how we know. And obviously, people did watch it when it was aired.
Yeah.
But
Did they?
it was the same year.
Everyone tuned in for Dick Cavett.
Yeah.
How do you spell it?
See a Dick, obviously, and then Cavett,
Mhm.
Dick Cavett, and
Right
so
after Bounty Law.
so this was like around the same time Hyneck announced QFOS,
Mhm.
or the Center for UFO Studies.
Yeah.
And so this episode, they like brought on a bunch of people. So they reviewed the Hickson polygraph test. So
Mhm.
they brought those, burly dudes in for a polygraph test, which doesn't necessarily mean they're telling the truth. But he did pass. Hickson was the only one who did it because Parker was freaking out. The kid who got paralyzed.
Cause that's crazy.
Yeah, so it was only Hickson who took the polygraph test. And Captain Coyne was also interviewed on the show.
Mhm.
And also an astronaut named James McDivitt, who had seen a UFO while in space on NASA's Gemini 4 mission.
Mhm.
And they were all on this show, along with Hyneck. And Carl Sagan is there, and he roasts them all.
Yeah.
And he compared Hickson
The nerve.
to these people's faces.
Yeah.
He compared Hickson to people who've seen leprechauns.
Whoa.
And he said, then even worse when, what's his name? Captain Coyne tried to step in for his defense, and Carl Sagan went even a step further and said that Hickson's a person is like one of those people who believes that they're a deity.
Whoa.
So like
He had a god delusion.
he even dismissed Coyne sighting as a hallucination,
Whoa.
despite the fact that 4 other people saw it. Hyneck even stepped out and tried to defend Coyne, and he said, altimeters don't hallucinate.
Yeah.
And then Sagan said, I don't mean to attack Captain Coyne, but those who read altimeters hallucinate.
Ooh.
And then, Jacques Vallée was actually asked to be on the show, but he declined.
Yeah.
And Hyneck kind of wished he did too, because of this. And you know what's funny about it all? Is that Sagan was leading a search to find ETs in the universe
Yeah.
during all of this. And
So why is he so bitter?
He even believed, get this out, he believed basically in the ancient astronaut theory that we had been visited in the past
By
and
aliens
and
maybe
they helped
even
us,
Yeah.
helped us evolve. And he believed this.
Yeah.
And he just didn't believe it was happening nowadays and was like really like against.
That's crazy.
Hyneck.
Dang.
Sagan even inscribed a gold plaque to the Pioneer 10 deep space probe, and it's basically a picture of like a naked man, a naked woman,
like what humans look like, and,
and like how to find us basically
Yeah.
on a gold plaque, in case someone out there saw it.
Yeah.
And it's like you yourself don't believe, and you're saying you don't believe, but you're doing all these things.
Got
Man.
some ulterior motives.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah.
Who's paying Carl Sagan? Who's paying him off?
But it's okay. I don't know if it got to Hyneck too much because QFOS was like popping.
I was gonna say it ended with Hyneck punching Sagan in the face
Yeah.
on live television.
I would hope they wouldn't tape over that.
Yeah, that would been great.
Well,
Hyneck takes on haters.
he's taken on haters through the scientific way.
Ooh.
Because QFO started with 22 people,
Yeah.
22 of his colleagues. Vallée was part of it.
Mhm.
Fred Beckman from the Invisible
Was
College.
Bill Powers in there?
I think Bill Powers was part of it. And actually, David Saunders from the Condon Committee joined.
Oh, cool.
And actually, he donated something called UFO Cat,
Yeah.
which is a computer database of UFO cases, to QFOS.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's a good gift.
Yeah. Basically what Hyneck was trying to do, but Northwestern said no.
Yeah.
So,
Those eggheads.
and it was less of like a geographical location because physically it was just a PO box,
Mhm.
but it was anyone kind of an extension of the Invisible College to anyone in their spare time could, contribute, just evaluating cases and stuff like that. And they had 5 principal objectives. One was to operate UFO Central, which was a clearinghouse for UFO reports, and it had a 24-hour toll-free telephone line, so you could call it and report.
Ooh.
And 2 was to pursue a rigorous study and analysis of the entire phenomenon. 3, to provide bulletins and technical reports and be a reliable source of information about the phenomenon. Number 4, to assist and guide correlative studies through international symposium and conferences.
Mm-hmm.
And 5, to aid in coordinating the effort of those in many different fields of study that can be applied to the problem. And they were actually recruiting case investigators within the first 3 months of operation. So it wasn't like Hyneck was alone anymore.
Yeah, he had buddies.
Mm-hmm.
They're drinking, having a good old time, throwing darts at pictures of Carl Sagan's face.
And, a year after QFO started, they were considered a scientific effort.
Yeah.
Like a serious scientific effort. And
That's awesome.
They had 2 TV specials lined up. And plus, Hyneck was recruited to be a consultant for NASA's Goddard Flight Space Center, which he would help map out the next 30 years of America's space program. And this was in 1974 when that happened. So, he was, helped planning out till 2004.
Whoa.
That's pretty...
That was 15 years ago.
Oof.
Is that wild?
Yeah.
I think that's when Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3
And
came out.
despite all of this, Northwestern University still didn't want him to mention UFOs and Northwestern University in the same sentence.
It's because they weren't cool enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, too, Hyneck offered a UFOs 101 course.
Yeah.
Which is the first class that offered credit at a major university about UFOs.
Mm-hmm.
And there was 35 people in the class.
Dang.
Yep. But his popularity was an all-time high. He was televised in Australia, Canada, England, France, Italy, Japan.
Oh, dang.
That's pretty cool. At least it's for doing good stuff instead of embarrassing.
Yeah, the hurricane goes international.
Yeah, dude. Hurricane Hyneck.
Ooh, off the coast.
And I guess this is where we get to our final showdown.
Yeah.
Between Hyneck and Sagan.
Him and Sagan.
They have a third encounter.
They're on top of the World Trade Center.
Yeah, I guess we should know.
Guns in hand.
Bluebook is officially over by this point.
Yeah, it's been dead for 5 years?
Yeah, for a while.
More or less.
But we're going to keep going about Hyneck, so if you find it interesting, I know it's getting really long now.
Oh,
but
now it's getting long?
Now it's getting long. What
time are we at anyway?
1:40.
Ooh!
Really?
Trust me, guys. We're almost to the end.
All right, let's go. Let's
I'm in it, dude.
out.
Yeah, okay.
You can keep going for 3 more hours, dude. I don't care. I'll be here.
Hyneck strangled Sagan with his bare hands.
Yeah, we
From
can have
the White
Alex
House.
describe a fight between them the whole time.
So, in anticipation of the Futurism Conference in Chicago, in November 1975, which is when the conference was to be held, before it, Hyneck wrote to Sagan. He wrote him a letter offering basically a truce.
A free knuckle sandwich.
Let's see. I have the quote
Come and
here.
get it.
If I can read this to you guys.
Please do.
There is one point about a forthcoming meeting at Oasis and the possible television appearance. I would like to propose a sort of mutual non-aggression pact, because I think any confrontation, which the TV people would dearly love, would, I believe, be based on an unfortunate misunderstanding. I do not and have never supported the idea that UFOs were nuts and bolts hardware from some very distant place. It is not only natural for any culture to interpret a new phenomena in terms of its own present technology, but understandable. My whole point is, and it always has been, that the UFO phenomenon is real, whatever it may be, after making due allowance for the 4 cases out of 5 which proved to be nonsense. Perhaps we disagree at this point, but certainly not on identifying UFOs as hardware from space. If this is clear between us, then we can have some fun discussing the subject.
That's crazy. Very, very mature, very responsible. And Sagan
I expect nothing less from Hyneck, dude.
Yeah. And Sagan replied with...
There will be no
classy.
fun. He replied with something very simple.
There was
no you.
No,
Simple yet elegant.
So, Sagan and Hyneck go up separately first,
Yeah.
doing their own things, establishing their standpoints on the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. Sagan declared that Hyneck's investigations. So the final showdown
Sure.
is that they're on stage together.
Yeah.
And this is when Sagan declares that Hyneck's investigations were merely people who misidentified things. Wait. Let me go back.
The
So
gall.
when Sagan's up there by himself, he kind of changes his stance a little bit.
Yeah.
Because like I said, he supports the ancient astronaut
Yeah.
theory, and he goes back and he says that that never happened because it's silly to believe that we were visited by aliens in the past and they helped us culturally and societally because it's demeaning to the human race.
Yeah.
Because human beings can do it all on their own.
Yeah.
And then he goes up when Hyneck's on stage and says that everyone who's ever said that they've seen a UFO is like making it up.
Mm-hmm.
Which, even though he just said that the ancient astronaut theory is demeaning to humankind, he says everyone who's seen a UFO
He's a big old dummy.
Yeah, and it's like, that's
Where's
interesting.
he get off?
Carl Sagan, you're pretty demeaning right now. So.
Yeah, he says, my question is, where have all the angels gone?
Oh.
Yep.
Oh,
And not only that.
He's a prog rock singer now. Where have all the angels gone?
Hey, that's pretty good.
And Sagan demands from Hyneck that there should be hard evidence of UFOs.
Yeah.
But also dismisses Hyneck's investigations as being too fantastic to lend money to research them.
Show me the proof. Well, I have this, and this. Show me something real.
Well, that's what Hyneck brings up the star map that Betty Hill drew.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, even though this might not be hard evidence, this is still pretty
wacky,
close.
right?
like, pretty wild. And Sagan says, a lot of pseudoscience that I talked about before has this one advantage to it. A minimal intellectual effort is necessary to understand it.
Ooh.
How does that even make sense to say
Right.
after that?
Yeah.
And Hyneck,
What a dillweed.
he said that Hyneck's research at QFOS was more of a social service than a scientific one.
Oh.
And then he says that UFO research should be funded only and after it's been proven to be fruitful.
This guy's a prick.
Yeah.
He says, he just keeps going. He said, I predict that if and when you ever get a really good case that involves hard evidence, there'll be no lack in federal funds. Clearly he has no understanding of Bluebook at all.
Yeah.
And Hyneck says, well, there are 800 cases in this, and Sagan cuts him off and says, I said good cases.
Ooh.
And the whole audience laughed.
Dang.
He's like, you don't want to throw money after bad cases. You want to wait for the good ones. When there are good ones, there'll be studies. No question about that.
How do you even tell?
And you know, the irony of all this, the next decade in the 80s, Sagan started up SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, which has been going on since 1984 and has nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
In like 30 plus years.
Carl Sagan nuts.
You know, using Sagan's own like standard,
Yeah.
you know, because it hasn't proven itself to be useful, it shouldn't be funded. You know, it's just like, who are you?
He's
Yeah,
a hypocrite, dude.
What a klutz. And a putz.
Hyneck never proposed a truce with Sagan ever again.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
why
that
would
guy's
you?
Send him a picture of his ass next time.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, 1975, Hyneck published his second book, The Edge of Reality, co-authored with Jacques Vallée.
Ooh.
And this is around the same time he writes a letter to Spielberg because he sees it in a magazine that Spielberg's next film is going to be called Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey,
Whoa.
I made that up. He's like, what's going on, Spielberg? He's like, also, I'm going to be in LA in a few weeks, so can I come by and see what your movie's all about?
Yeah.
And Spielberg waits a whole 12 days and responds, and he says,
New phone who did.
He's
like,
so nervous. He's like, oh, my Hyneck emailed me.
Ooh.
it wasn't even email, it was snail mail.
Oh, dang.
What?
It's 1975.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Dinosaur times.
So
Send him a telegram.
Spielberg responds, and he's like, I'm sorry, but my friend suggested the name to me after reading your book, The UFO Experience. And then he made the UFO Experience mandatory reading for everyone on his creative team.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, the production company hired Hyneck as a technical advisor for $500 a day for 3 days.
Oh, hey.
And Hyneck even filmed a cameo in the film.
Yeah.
I hope he got paid for that too.
Yeah.
I think he did. I think that was during his
Hope-
3 days.
I hope
Is
he
he
got
s-
some residuals.
Is he SAG now, dude?
Yeah, I don't know.
Gets an Oscar. Best supporting actor.
Hold on, I need
They
some
have, to,
water.
they have to cut him off.
I can't
early.
remember. Does he talk in the movie?
No, he just stands there looking
Yeah.
all poignant.
Yeah.
He's got his shirt open, his abs wrestling in the wind, holding a blonde woman with her hair, and he's just like, "Come and get me, aliens."
Well, in 1977, the same year Close Encounters comes out,
Yeah.
Hyneck releases his third book called The Hyneck UFO Report.
Ooh.
And it re-examined some cases from Bluebook and talked about how Bluebook butchered the cases.
Throwing
And
him out to dry, dude.
so now we're kind of winding down here.
Yeah, I think so.
But Hyneck, interesting to note, because the question must be asked. After investigating so many UFO cases, did Hyneck ever see a UFO?
Yeah.
He did. He saw
Oh.
two.
Oh.
He saw one from the window of a commercial airliner
Mhm.
and another in the sky above his family cabin in Ontario.
Mhm.
So he saw two. But he never had a close encounter and said that he felt left out because of that.
Dang, that's rough,
Yeah.
man.
I gave you a name.
I gave you a scale. I gave you my heart.
I want this. Can't you see?
I'm just a boy who studies UFOs.
It's quite an eventful life, huh?
Standing
Oh.
before.
We're almost to the end here. And
Yeah.
this is kind of where it gets sad.
All right.
His last lecture at Northwestern University in 1978 ended with a banner unfurling from the balcony that, among pictures of rockets and planets and actually an alien in there,
Yeah.
it had the words written, "Our last close encounter with J. Allen, baby."
Oh, I know.
That's our guy.
Yeah.
Jay Allen. Or party animal.
Yeah.
Hurricane Hyneck.
Oh.
So, and this is kind of when he shifts to QFOS a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's 1980 now, 2 years after he's retired from teaching. And by this time, they have 150 investigators, 2 paid staffers at their actual office, which they have now, and 87,000 reports of UFOs throughout the world.
Ooh.
And around this time is when Roswell came to light.
Yeah.
So I promised I would bring that up. There it is.
Hey, all right. Yeah.
Ding, ding,
Up
ding.
until this point, nobody knew what the heck Roswell was.
Right.
Spoiler.
In 1984, Hyneck and Mimi, his wife, they moved to Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh,
Because-
settled down, had a son named Steffen.
And this is where it gets really, really sad
Can you
here.
imagine? That would be amazing.
Whoa.
Well, they're in Phoenix, Arizona. They moved there because a wealthy British benefactor named Jeffrey Kay was offering him $2 million in annual operating funds to create a UFO research center without rival in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, is Hyneck going to say no to that?
No.
No.
Give me that.
And so he's hoping this effort would hopefully produce reports acceptable to the National Academy of Sciences
Mm-hmm.
and establish ufology as a legitimate branch of scientific research.
Yeah. It seems pretty
Which is
reasonable.
Commendable. And it's going to be called the International Center for UFO Research, or ICU4.
Ikufu.
And so he
When
left.
space punches, we punch back.
See, and this is where it gets really sad. Because he leaves QFOS to be part of this thing.
Yeah.
And people start bickering.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just like, it's awful. Hyneck,
Everyone at QFOS?
QFOS, and Hyneck calls them all like, because now a bunch of like MUFON starts up,
Okay.
the Mutual UFO Network starts up.
Mm-hmm.
He's calling everyone like, they're like fake researchers and
Yeah.
amateurs, and like
They're doing it for
They're-
the likes.
they're doing it to get popular.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Everyone sees Hyneck and they're like, yeah, I want to do that too.
Yeah, I want to be that guy. I want to be in the next Spielberg movie.
Right. And so Hyneck, in the last issue of the International UFO Report, which was QFOS's official magazine,
Mm-hmm.
and the final issue is in 1985, he says that he's completely disassociated with the Arizona Project.
Yeah.
which he moved to Arizona for. So what's going on? Turns out that Kay only wanted to start it up, not keep funding it.
Oh no.
And he wanted to produce films whose profits would support the Arizona Project,
Okay.
which is, IQ4. And the first film was going to be about Hyneck's life, like a documentary about his life.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets sad.
Uh-oh.
Because Kay threw a fundraiser for this, for IQ4.
Yeah.
And Hyneck was there, and he introduced Hyneck to everybody, and nobody wrote a check.
Ooh.
And then Hyneck's health began to decline.
Yeah.
Like, he started getting real sick, and Kay backed out.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's nothing there. Like,
Yeah.
he abandoned QFOS basically for nothing, And people started laying claim to his legacy. The people left in charge of QFOS changed the name from QFOS to J. Allen Hyneck Center for UFO Studies, just to capitalize on the name. And they also sent a letter to the president of IQ4 demanding that Hyneck's name not be used in association with it at all. Oh. Despite the fact that Hyneck was, like, starting it up.
And they even tried to get access to his body so they could, like, embalm it and keep it as a mascot.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
And this is sad, too, because this is where it really starts going downhill.
Alright.
And I feel, like, really sad.
All right, it's this sad part. If you want to turn it off,
Well,
go ahead.
you might want to stay because there's some closure to this.
Okay.
So, MUFON, who I just mentioned, Mutual UFO Network, the state director of MUFON sends a letter to Hyneck, asking him, like, hey, do you want to, like, try to lead this effort to combine all these other UFO groups, all their data together? And, Hyneck's going to say, yeah. And so Hyneck is asked to speak at this event where everyone's going to be at. And so it's August, I think, 1985, and it's in Boston. And Hyneck gets up to speak, and he turns to his friend, David Jacobs, and he says, Dave, I'm not feeling so well, and I'm not sure if I can give my paper. And so Jacobs presents for him. And they do a Q&A afterward, and Hyneck couldn't really do the Q&A because people would ask him, like, crazy questions, and he would just say, yes.
Oh.
Like, he just couldn't, like, focus. And they took him off stage, and they got him to an ambulance, and he said he didn't want to go, but they made him. And so a few weeks later, he's diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Oh, no.
And he had to get surgery to remove it. But they also did a brain scan, and it revealed he also had a brain tumor.
Oh my God.
And which is why he was, like, just kind of losing it a little bit. And that's when, right after they revealed that, Jacob said that Hyneck got up and he called everybody and told them goodbye.
Ooh.
So September 23rd of that year, like, of that conference, he goes to have brain surgery in San Francisco. And then he's discharged back to Arizona to start radiation treatments. And this is where he spent the last months of his life. And his children came to visit, like, from all over the place, because he has, like, 4 or 5 children.
Yeah.
And his son, Paul, visited him the most because he lived in Scottsdale, Arizona, so he could, like, be there all the time. And his son, Paul, said he got more interested into the unknown, just, like, at this time. And, so, up until this point, Hyneck had been worried about Halley's Comet. Yeah. Which was scheduled to come in 1986. He was scared that Halley's Comet was going to signal his death.
Right.
And in March 1986, Hyneck got to see Halley's Comet pass overhead.
Whoa.
And so he got to see it 4 times, it says. So, like, I've never seen Halley's Comet, obviously, because it hasn't been around in my lifetime.
Yeah.
But I think it's visible for a couple of days.
Yeah.
So his son Paul took him out there twice, actually, to go see it. But he went out there once with his wife, and I'm not sure the other one.
It's pretty crazy, just bookended.
And a little over a month later, Hyneck passed away. And they didn't cremate him for 3 days, which was part of his...
last wishes?
Last wishes, but it was part of a belief system he had about the afterlife. I'm not sure what it was. I didn't get too much into it.
He knew he was radioactive, too?
Yeah.
Whoa.
But I wanna read this because they found this in his QFOS notes with no date, no other notes. It was just this written down, and it's kind of like has a good bookmark end for it. He says, actually, does someone else want to read this?
Yeah.
Stefan?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Stefarino.
It's the blue mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any man who says that he thinks of himself as an ordinary man is a liar. Any man that says he doesn't matter as one individual in the galaxy is a liar. This sounds like shades of John Donne, and probably so. There is no such thing as an ordinary man. There are physical and emotional characteristics common to all humans, and there are humans who are educated and creative, who travel, and who constantly ask why, when, what. And there are humans who live and die by the millions in starvation, poverty, and ignorance, who have never been 10 miles from home and who don't know what a star is and are too hungry to care. But they are not common people. They are, each one, distinctive individuals, and the paradox is that each one does matter, just as each star or planet, regardless of size or distance, does exert some influence upon the others.
Wow.
Yep.
That's crazy.
I know.
That is a statement.
That is the end of a great man's life.
Yeah. A
And
man who came in this world and only tried to do better by helping everyone understand and figure out a thing, and he was too ahead of his time.
Yep.
Like, too ahead of his time, man.
It's crazy.
I think that's it, huh?
That's where the notes stop.
That's the end of Project Bluebook. That's the end
That's
of
part 2.
J. Allen Hyneck.
Yeah.
One interesting note I'll end on this is his son Joel Hyneck oversaw the camouflage effect in Predator,
Yeah.
and he went on to win Best Visual Effects Oscar.
Oh,
Yep.
sweet.
So kind of keeping the alien power in the family, the Hyneck name.
Yeah.
You know, so that's pretty dope.
That is
Yeah.
dope.
Really dope.
But yeah, this is I guess where we start kind of signing everything off.
Cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you for joining us for part 1, part 2, and if you're around for part 1.5, he's looking at you,
I
kid.
know. You've survived probably like 5 hours.
5 hours
Woo.
of Project Bluebook, baby. Well, we are Cryptid Campfire.
Yes, we are.
If you want to find us on the social medias, we're on Instagram and Twitter. Eli here runs the Cryptid
Instagram.
Campfire Instagram, so if you want to reach him, you could do it through the Cryptid
Yeah,
Campfire.
At Cryptid Campfire, probably the best way to reach me.
And then if you want to find you personally,
At the Eli Watson.
yeah,
Feel free to follow me.
yeah,
Message me things.
post some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And what about you, fella? If I want to find you online,
You can find me on Instagram at MyersSteffen. Or you can find me on Facebook if you want. Might
Oh,
be a little
dang.
weird.
Whoa, dang.
Oh yeah, I think I have a Cryptid Campfire Facebook as well. If
Yeah,
you
we
wanna
do,
Check
so-
that out. We're trying to get some discussions going. Try to make
Yep.
it a safe haven for cryptozoology.
Yeah, because a lot of groups are trash.
Ooh, very much so.
Shots fired.
Oh,
Yeah.
ooh, we've left a couple. And my name's Alex Daikaiju. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Alex Daikaiju. Alex DAIKAIJU. I also help run the the Twitter
Mm-hmm.
for Cryptid Campfire. You can also find us. We have a website.
CryptidCampfire.com.
Ooh, if you want to buy a snazzy T-shirt.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, if you didn't listen to 1.5, join our Patreon.
Ooh, we got a Patreon
Yeah,
now.
and join that Melonhead army.
Ooh, yeah, we got or the Creepy Camper.
Or the Creepy Camper to get exclusive content.
Ooh, behind the scenes, baby. And if you had any questions, comments, concerns, you can email us at cryptidcampfirepodcast@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
We love to get emails. They're always fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's it. Signing off.
Cool.
Signing off.
We'll see you at another time, another
care.
place.
See you next week, fellas.
Oh, yeah.